Chapter 1332. Dragon Gate Fragment. Yang Hongwu was speechless when he heard this. As an emperor, he actually needed to inform his ancestors before he could use the items in the national treasury. This was simply absurd. If the monarch of a country didn't even have the right to mobilize a portion of the treasures in the national treasury, then the monarch of a country would be too sullen. Seeing Yang Hongwu's gaze, Song Lingwu was also embarrassed. His face sank as he said to Steward Lang, "No need, I have already promised young Hero Yang. Do you want me to go back on my word? I am the Emperor of the Fire God Dynasty, the ruler of a country. Don't tell me I don't even have this bit of authority? Your Majesty, please calm down. Your Majesty, please calm down. It's not that I want to disobey Your Majesty, but this is the decision made by the ancestors. If Your Majesty is only using 1 or 2 Emperor weapons or 1 or 2 Emperor medicines, I will definitely not say anything. However, Your Majesty, the things that you want to use now are far beyond this range. You must inform the ancestors and obtain their consent before you can open the treasury and take out the treasures. Otherwise, without the consent of the ancestors, there's no way to take out the treasures from the treasury." Seeing that Song Lingwu was angry, Steward Lang's expression turned ugly. After all, Song Lingwu was the emperor of the Fire God Dynasty, and he was a subject of the Fire God Dynasty. A subject was still a subject. As the saying goes, if the monarch wants his subject to die, the subject has no choice but to die. The monarch of a country was definitely the highest existence in a country. If his words were not dignified, then the monarch of a country would be meaningless. Yang Hongwu found it funny. Such a ruler of a country was really sullen. Bai Yunjian was the same. Only Song Lingwu's face grew darker and darker. "Steward Lang, are my words useless?" he asked coldly. "Your Majesty, please don't make things difficult for me," Minister Lang said. "Don't force me to kill you," Song Lingwu said coldly. "I am the monarch of a country. The entire Fire God Dynasty belongs to me. Do you think I don't have the right to use my things? I can give it to whoever I want. Get out of my way." Yang Hongwu laughed in his heart. This Steward Lang was too arrogant. As an emperor, how could he allow someone to threaten him in his own country? This was especially true of the imperial treasury, which was the foundation of the country. Now, as the emperor, if he wanted to use the imperial treasury and the items in the imperial treasury, he had to get the permission of others. How could he not be angry? When Steward Lang saw that Song Lingwu was really angry and his eyes were already flashing with murderous intent, he finally sighed and stepped aside. The emperor was still the emperor. In the distance, the old man who was sweeping the floor shook his head when he saw this scene. He sighed softly and continued sweeping with his head lowered. However, in that instant, Yang Hongwu felt that the old man's aura had locked onto him. Yang Hongwu's senses were very sharp. Although this aura was very hidden, Yang Hongwu still felt it. "Your Majesty! You still want to stop me?" Song Lingwu frowned when he saw that Steward Lang had stepped aside but continued to speak. He was really angry. Steward Lang had made him lose face in front of Yang Hongwu and the others. If it wasn't for his tolerance, things wouldn't have been so simple. If it was another bad-tempered emperor, he might have ordered Steward Lang to be killed. "I dare not." Steward Lang shook his head and said, "I just want to remind Your Majesty that young Hero Yang is only in the Saint Realm. If he enters the imperial treasury and chooses the treasures without the approval of the ancestors, he will not be able to take them out. If he takes them out by force, he may even lose his life." "You don't have to worry about this, old Steward Lang," Yang Hongwu smiled and said, "If I die in there, it's because I'm incompetent and have no fate with the treasures." How could Yang Hongwu not see that this so-called Steward Lang was dissatisfied with him, and even had a trace of murderous intent? This guy probably wanted to attack him. Perhaps it was because of him that Steward Lang had offended Song Lingwu. However, Yang Hongwu really did not care about Steward Lang's murderous intent. If he dared to attack him, Yang Hongwu would make him pay the price. Steward Lang, just do your own thing. Song Lingwu waved his hand in disgust. After that, Song Lingwu took Yang Hongwu into the imperial treasury. The imperial treasury of the Fire God dynasty was very large. The treasures inside were all classified. Each category occupied a subhall. There were weapons and equipment, elixirs, spiritual herbs, ores, and so on. There were also some eunuchs in the imperial treasury. These eunuchs were responsible for cleaning and guarding the treasures in the imperial treasury. Of course, these eunuchs were basically not allowed to go out. They had to eat, drink, and defecate in the imperial treasury. You, take little brother Yang to choose the treasures. Song Lingwu instructed one of the eunuchs. Then, he turned to the other two eunuchs and said, "The two of you, take 5 emperor weapons and 10 emperor herbs." "Yes, your majesty." Yang Hongwu was led into the imperial treasury by one of the eunuchs. Yang Hongwu did not move at first. Instead, he used his mind to sense. The Fire God dynasty could be considered a decent force. The treasures in the imperial treasury could be said to be piled up like a mountain. However, Yang Hongwu really did not care about ordinary treasures. Yang Hongwu did not even care about emperor weapons and emperor herbs. "Young master." Seeing that Yang Hongwu did not move, the eunuch said softly, "Young master, what kind of treasures do you want? I am very familiar with the imperial treasury. What kind of treasures do you need? You can tell me and I will take you to choose." Yang Hongwu pointed at a house not far away and said, "What's there?" "Over there. There are some broken and abandoned treasures." The eunuch who led the way replied, "Bring me there." Yang Hongwu felt something. There was a special aura there. This aura was similar. It was the aura of the Dragon Gate. If he could really find a part of the Dragon Sect, it would be great. He had only found a part of the ancient Dragon Sect, but it was already very good. In the imperial treasury of the Fire God dynasty, he could feel another aura. If it was really the Dragon Sect, he would really hit the jackpot this time. Yang Hongwu walked towards the house. The closer he got, the stronger the aura became. Yang Hongwu squinted his eyes. Soon, he found the source of the aura. After taking a closer look, it was a piece of metal. This piece of metal was covered with layers of rust. It looked like a piece of scrap metal. "What is this?" Yang Hongwu asked. Chapter 1333. A shocking change. What kind of treasure fragment is this? Can you find it? Yang Hongwu asked. The eunuch shook his head. I don't know. However, if it is, you should be able to find it here. Yang Hongwu sighed. If there were other fragments of the Dragon Gate here, he would be able to sense them. However, he could not sense any of them. Hence, there were no other fragments of the Dragon Gate here. Yang Hongwu was disappointed. He held the Dragon Gate fragment in his hand. Young master, please give up the fragment and follow me there. The real treasure is inside, the eunuch said. No need. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, I'll take this fragment. Although I don't know what it is, I'll take it since it is fated to be with me. Who knows, I might be able to find the real treasure one day. Young master, you. All right, let's go out now. Yang Hongwu smiled and walked out. Soon, Yang Hongwu arrived at the exit. At this moment, Song Lingwu was already waiting there. There were 2 eunuchs beside him. The 2 eunuchs had boxes placed beside them. Within the boxes there were treasures. Young master, you've chosen. What treasure is it? Song Lingwu asked when he saw Yang Hongwu coming out. He did not think that Yang Hongwu would secretly choose a few more treasures. Hence, he was not worried. He was just curious about what treasure Yang Hongwu had chosen. Your Majesty, young Master Yang chose a useless fragment, the eunuch said. Yang Hongwu did not mind and took out the fragment. I found this unknown fragment in Your Majesty's treasure vault. I felt that it was fated to be with me, so I chose it. Song Lingwu heaved a sigh of relief in his heart when he saw that Yang Hongwu did not pick out any peerless treasures. However, he said, Congratulations, little brother Yang. This fragment should be a fragment of a treasure that our ancestors obtained in the ancient dragon territory. However, that treasure has been lost. However, I believe that little brother will definitely be able to find that treasure. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your kind words. Yang Hongwu smiled faintly. Haha, well said, well said. Little brother, please take a look. These are the treasures that I promised you. There are 5 emperor weapons here. Each of them is a powerful treasure that my fire god dynasty has collected. As for these, they are emperor medicines. These emperor medicines have been collected by my fire god dynasty for many years, said Song Lingwu. Yang Hongwu did not spend too much time looking at the monarch weapons and herbs. He simply put them away. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your generosity. These emperor weapons and emperor medicines are of great help to me. To Yang Hongwu, the emperor weapons could increase the power of the destruction Heavenly Palace and Dragon Gate. As for these emperor medicines, they could be used to concoct pills that could increase one's cultivation. After all, emperor medicines were not cabbages. They were not easy to obtain. Yang Hongwu could concoct quite a number of emperor medicines with 10 emperor medicines in one go. Now that Yang Hongwu had obtained the red karmic fire lotus, it was much easier for him to concoct emperor medicines. With these 10 emperor medicines, Yang Hongwu could concoct emperor medicines that could allow his cultivation to reach the great saint realm in a short time. Young Master Yang, let's go now, Song Lingwu said. All right. Yang Hongwu nodded. When they arrived at the entrance of the imperial treasury, they felt a majestic aura. An astonishing pressure pressed down on Yang Hongwu. Song Lingwu was instantly sent flying by an overbearing force. Humph! Yang Hongwu snorted coldly. His aura froze and he stood still like a mountain. Outside the imperial treasury, the chief consecrator's face changed when he saw His Majesty being thrown out. He asked, Your Majesty, are you all right? Song Lingwu's face changed. He smiled bitterly and said, Something happened. The ancestral spirit has appeared. I'm afraid young Master Yang is in danger. Sigh. Steward Lang sighed and said, I'm afraid the ancestral spirit is angry. Young Master Yang is in great danger. Steward Lang, you should have a way to save young Master Yang, right? Bai Yunjian quickly asked. He did not want anything to happen to Yang Hongwu. If Yang Hongwu died in the imperial treasury, it would be troublesome. Steward Lang, is there no way to save young Master Yang? Although Song Lingwu hoped that Yang Hongwu would die in the treasury, he would be able to keep the treasures. However, if Yang Hongwu really died in the treasury, Bai Yunjian and the Sky Sword sect would definitely not let the matter rest. Now that the Fire God dynasty had just experienced the betrayal of the sect king, the strength of the Fire God dynasty was much weaker than before. If they were to go against the Sky Sword sect, the Fire God dynasty would really be in danger. There's no way. The entire imperial treasury has been sealed by the ancestral spirit. We have no way to enter it. Steward Lang said, We can only hope that the ancestral spirit will not kill young Master Yang. Otherwise, young Master Yang's life will be in danger. No, we can't let anything happen to junior brother Yang. If anything happens to junior brother Yang, don't blame the Sky Sword sect for being impolite. Bai Yunjian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. My sect's old ancestors have already come out of seclusion and are on their way to the Fire God dynasty. If I'm not wrong, the old ancestors should arrive in half a day. Song Lingwu's face changed when he heard that. He hurriedly said, Don't worry, young Master Yang will be fine. Now, Song Lingwu was really anxious. If something happened to Yang Hongwu, the Fire God dynasty would really fall into a huge crisis. This crisis would probably be the biggest crisis for the Fire God dynasty. Steward Lang, you must have a way to get young Master Yang out, right? Song Lingwu looked at Steward Lang. I don't care what method you use, you must open the Imperial Treasury's gate and let young Master Yang out safely. Steward Lang took a deep breath and said, Now, there's only one way to stop the ancestral spirit from attacking young Master Yang. What way? Song Lingwu and Bai Yunjian hurriedly asked. Worship the ancestral spirit. Worship the ancestral spirit? Is it too late now? High Consecrator Huadanzi asked. I hope young Master Yang can hold on a little longer, Steward Lang said. Men, quickly set up the altar for me. I want to worship the ancestral spirit, Song Lingwu said loudly. In an instant, the entire imperial palace became busy. After a while, someone set up the altar and Song Lingwu began to worship the ancestral spirit. By the ancestral spirit, the 16th emperor of the Fire God dynasty, Song Lingwu. Before Song Lingwu could finish his words, the entire altar table turned into dust. Song Lingwu was also pushed back by the tyrannical power and suffered heavy injuries. Chapter 1334. Devour, how could this be? What happened? Bai Yunjian asked. Song Lingwu was helped up at this time. He was very confused. He didn't expect that such a thing would happen when he was worshipping the ancestors. He was very familiar with this power. It was the power of the ancestors of the Fire God dynasty. What had provoked the ancestors' spirit and made it so angry? If he had only given the 5 emperor weapons and 10 emperor medicines to Yang Hongwu, such a thing would definitely not have happened. Could it be that Yang Hongwu had taken other things from the treasury? However, this was also impossible. Yang Hongwu was under his surveillance. Although he didn't follow Yang Hongwu, he clearly saw what Yang Hongwu did in the treasury. However, why was the ancestors' spirit so angry? Why was it so furious? At this time, Yang Hongwu was facing the ancestors' spirit in the Fire God dynasty. This so-called ancestors' spirit was made up of countless spirit bodies. One of them was very powerful. Yang Hongwu discovered that this spirit body was actually the dragon vein spirit of the Fire God dynasty. Little bastard, quickly release my body. The dragon vein spirit glared at Yang Hongwu and shouted angrily. Yang Hongwu naturally knew what the dragon vein spirit meant. This was because Yang Hongwu had set up a formation in the Fire God Palace. This formation used the dragon vein spirit of the Fire God dynasty as the formation core, as the source of energy. Therefore, it was normal for the dragon vein spirit to be so angry. Do you think it's possible? Yang Hongwu chuckled. What kind of joke was this? Wasn't removing the formation courting death? Yang Hongwu was very clear about what was trapped in the formation. If the formation was removed, wouldn't it be the same as releasing the so-called Fire God? That would definitely be a huge threat to Yang Hongwu. Although the Fire God was only an incarnation and not the original body, the strength of this incarnation was definitely equivalent to an invincible great emperor. It was even stronger than an ordinary invincible great emperor. With Yang Hongwu's current strength, there was no way he could contend against it. Therefore, no matter what, Yang Hongwu couldn't give up the formation and release that guy. One had to know that Yang Hongwu had taken that guy's red karmic fire lotus, which was the fire lotus. No one knew how important the fire lotus was in that guy's heart better than Yang Hongwu. In order to obtain the red karmic fire lotus, he would do anything. It was even possible that he would destroy the entire mortal continent. Therefore, he couldn't give up the formation. Not only that, after he recovered his strength to the Great Saint Realm, he had to find a way to strengthen the formation. He couldn't let the incarnation pass the news to the Divine Realm. Otherwise, the Fire God's original body would receive the news and descend. At that time, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have the confidence to deal with that guy's original body. Although Yang Hongwu knew that coming to the mortal continent from the Divine Realm with his original body would definitely cost him a lot, that guy would definitely not care about that little price for the red karmic fire lotus. After all, if he really refined the red karmic fire lotus, that little price was nothing at all. He could easily recover. Moreover, he could break through to a higher realm. If you don't release the formation, I will kill you, the dragon vein spirit said angrily. The other ancestral spirits of the Fire God dynasty also stared at Yang Hongwu angrily. Kid, you are not a member of our Fire God dynasty. If you release the formation honestly, we might spare your life. Otherwise, you will die here. They were also very angry. As the experts of the Fire God dynasty, they were able to survive because of the nourishment of the dragon vein. Without the dragon vein and the Fire God dynasty, they would disappear. Now, the dragon vein was controlled by someone and was set up into a formation. How could they not be angry? Do you think I will be afraid? Yang Hongwu laughed. If you guys have a physical body, I would be a little afraid. However, you guys are just spiritual bodies now. You guys are too arrogant and naive to want to deal with me. I will give you guys a chance. If you know what's good for you, retreat immediately, open the door and send me out. Otherwise, all of you will die and be refined by me and become my spiritual power. Hearing Yang Hongwu's words, the dragon vein spirit and the ancestral spirits of the Fire God dynasty were all furious. A saint realm cultivator. Even though they were merely spirits now, a saint realm cultivator was still like an ant. Yet now, this ant was actually so arrogant and even dared to threaten them. It made all of them furious to the extreme. They were emperors when they were alive, and they were lofty existences that stood at the pinnacle of their kingdoms. Now they were actually threatened by Yang Hongwu. One could imagine how angry they were. Damn it! You deserve to die. One of the ancestral spirits roared. He turned into a black light and rushed towards Yang Hongwu. His strength was definitely comparable to a mid-great Emperor Realm expert's full-strength attack. Good timing! Yang Hongwu shouted. Since they had attacked, then they should not blame him for being merciless. Apart from the dragon vein spirit, he could devour and refine the rest of the spiritual bodies. A huge vortex appeared in Yang Hongwu's hand. Ancient runes appeared and a terrifying devouring force burst out. This devouring power devoured the attack of the ancestral spirit in an instant. Then, the ancestral spirit was pulled into the vortex and turned into pure energy. Yang Hongwu's cultivation increased a little. Although he did not break through to the next realm, he was not far from it. After devouring another ancestral spirit, he would be able to break through the bottleneck and break through to the next realm. 16. Seeing the ancestral spirit being devoured, the rest of the ancestral spirits were shocked. The vortex made them feel a terrifying threat. Those runes made them even more terrified. Demon! You demon! How dare you cultivate such a terrifying demonic technique? You deserve to die. You're unforgivable. One of the ancestral spirits shouted. You're having a good time, aren't you? Yang Hongwu squinted his eyes and clenched his hand. The demon-devouring rune moved again. A majestic devouring force locked onto the ancestral spirit and pulled it over. The ancestral spirit struggled continuously, trying to break free from the demon-devouring rune. However, it was futile. There was no way for him to break free from the demon-devouring rune. Chapter 1335. Subduing the dragon vein spirit. After devouring the two spiritual bodies, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had made a breakthrough from Saint Realm 4th Heaven to Saint Realm 5th Heaven. Everyone, let's attack together and kill this demon. The dragon vein spirit shouted when he saw that the situation was not good. If we don't kill him, we'll all die. All the spiritual bodies charged towards Yang Hongwu in a frenzy. They knew that Yang Hongwu could devour spiritual bodies. If they attacked him one by one, they would not be a match for him and would definitely die. Therefore, they had to attack him together in order to have a chance. Humph, naive. Yang Hongwu chuckled. He did not care about the spiritual bodies charging towards him. They were all spiritual bodies, and would not be able to withstand a single blow from the demon-devouring runes. Before the spiritual bodies could react, they were devoured by the demon-devouring runes and turned into pure energy that allowed Yang Hongwu's cultivation to rise continuously. Saint Realm 6th Heaven. Saint Realm 7th Heaven. After devouring all the ancestral spirits, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had reached the peak of Saint Realm's 7th heaven. He was only a step away from Saint Realm 8th heaven. If Yang Hongwu devoured the spirit of the dragon vein, he was confident that he could raise his cultivation level to the peak of the Saint Realm. In fact, if he devoured all of the dragon vein's power, his cultivation level might even reach the great Saint Realm. However, if he devoured the dragon vein spirit and the dragon vein spirit, he would release the fire god. After all, Yang Hongwu was not completely confident. Therefore, it was better to be conservative. Seal! Yang Hongwu bellowed, and a talisman flew out, sealing the spirit of the dragon vein in an instant. Damn demon, what are you trying to do? The spirit of the dragon vein said furiously. He realized that Lin Fan's strength was terrifying. Although Lin Fan seemed to be in the Saint Realm, his combat strength was terrifying. Otherwise, he would not have been able to set up such a powerful formation to control his body. You want to die? Yang Hongwu looked at the dragon vein spirit and said, If you really want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. I will devour you and turn you into my energy. Your dragon vein energy is much stronger than theirs. I presume my strength should recover to the peak of the Saint Realm once I devour you. Perhaps I'll even be able to break through the shackles of the peak of the Saint Realm and enter the eminent Saint Realm. The spirit of the dragon vein was shocked when it heard Zhang Xian's words. It suddenly recalled that Zhang Xian's cultivation had only risen to the 7th level of the Saint Realm after devouring so many ancestor spirits. If it were any other disciples of the Song clan, even the weakest ancestor spirit would be able to boost their cultivation by leaps and bounds. Even if they weren't able to break through to the Emperor Realm, they would at least be able to reach the peak of the Great Saint Realm. Most of them would be able to break through to the Emperor Realm. However, the guy in front of him had devoured so many ancestor souls, but his cultivation base had only increased by a few minor levels. He hadn't even reached the Great Saint stage. Terrifying, truly terrifying. He said that his cultivation base had recovered. Could it be that he was the reincarnation of a peerless expert? Yes, that was the only possibility. If he wasn't the reincarnation of a peerless expert, he wouldn't have dared to provoke an existence like the Fire God and even sealed him in the Fire God Palace. How bold would he have to be to take action against the Fire God? Even if this guy's original strength couldn't be compared to the Fire God, it shouldn't be too weak. What do you want? The spirit of the dragon vein asked. He was merely the dragon vein of the Fire God dynasty. He had only gained sentience many years after the Fire God dynasty was established. Although the Fire God dynasty was his foundation, he wouldn't care about the Fire God dynasty if he lost his life. Nothing much. In fact, you only need to know that I won't release your original body. You are still useful to me. Otherwise, I would have devoured you long ago. The spirit of the dragon vein is very rare, Yang Hongwu said. However, I need you to be the spirit of the array to imprison the so-called Fire God. It wasn't that Yang Hongwu didn't want to devour the spirit of the dragon vein. However, without the spirit of the dragon vein, the power of the array would be much weaker. It probably wouldn't be able to trap the incarnation of the Fire God for long. Therefore, Yang Hongwu wanted to subdue the spirit of the dragon vein and make him the spirit of the array to guard this place and seal the incarnation of the Fire God. However, if he didn't know what was good for him, then there was no need for the spirit of the dragon vein to exist. Yang Hongwu would choose to erase his sentience. In this way, Yang Hongwu would suffer a great loss. However, it was still better than this guy being disobedient and causing trouble for him. You want me to become the spirit of the array? The spirit of the dragon vein was furious. The spirit of the array meant that he would be controlled by Yang Hongwu for the rest of his life, just like the weapon spirit. In reality, the spirit of the array was even more pitiful than the weapon spirit. Why? You don't want to? Yang Hongwu snorted coldly. If you don't want to, then I can only destroy you. You? Alright, I promise you. The spirit of the dragon Vane didn't want to die. Looking at the cold light in Yang Hongwu's eyes and the terrifying demon devouring mark, he knew that if he dared to refuse, Yang Hongwu would definitely not let him go. He was unwilling to die. It wasn't easy for him to gain sentience. How could he be willing to die? Seeing that the spirit of the dragon Vane had surrendered, Yang Hongwu heaved a sigh of relief. He continued, "You don't have to be sad. When my cultivation recovers, I will return you your freedom and give you a great opportunity." A slap and a carrot. How could Yang Hongwu not use such a method? Although the spirit of the dragon Vane had gained sentience, he was still an antique and a sly old fox. However, the spirit of the dragon Vane was in despair now. There was no hope at all. However, Yang Hongwu's words gave him hope, a hope that he could regain his freedom. How could he give up? At this moment, the spirit of the dragon Vane was grasping at straws in despair. How could he give up? "Is what you said true? You will set me free in the future?" The spirit of the dragon Vane quickly asked. Yang Hongwu nodded. "That's right. If I recover my strength, I won't have to worry about the so-called fire god. When the time comes, I will return your freedom. It's nothing. I hope you will keep your promise." The spirit of the dragon Vane stared at him. Then, a ray of light flew out from the spirit of the dragon Vane and turned into a small dragon. Yang Hongwu formed a seal with both of his hands. A contract was drawn into the small dragon, then into the body of the spirit of the dragon Vane. This is? After the contract was successful, the spirit of the dragon Vane widened his eyes. You are. Chapter 1336. Fire Emperor Fist. Don't worry, Master. I will not let that guy break out of the formation. The dragon Vane spirit nodded. Here's a skill that can allow you to materialize a physical body. If you cultivate it to the maximum, you'll be able to materialize a true body of a true dragon. Yang Hongwu stretched out his hand, and a beam of light entered the forehead of the spirit of the dragon Vane. The dragon Vane spirit was overjoyed. Condensing the body of a true dragon was something he yearned for even in his dreams. Yang Hongwu was actually willing to give him such a precious cultivation method, which made him pleasantly surprised. "Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master." The dragon Vane spirit kowtowed to express his gratitude. "Alright, as long as you can seal the fire god incarnation for me within this period of time, that will be the best way to show your gratitude." Yang Hongwu calculated the time and guessed that Bai Yunjian and the others were worried about him. He then said to the dragon Vane spirit, "Send me out." "Yes, Master." The dragon Vane spirit released a force that wrapped around Yang Hongwu and sent Yang Hongwu out. "Remember, don't expose our relationship," Yang Hongwu said to the dragon Vane spirit before he was sent out. "Yes, Master." Outside the treasury, Bai Yunjian, Huadanzi and the others were attacking the treasury's gate crazily. However, the Fire God Dynasty's treasury's defense was strong and it was supported by a formation. Although they were strong, they still couldn't break the treasury's gate. In fact, Song Lingwu's heart was bleeding as he watched the crowd bombarding the door of the treasury. However, it was impossible to not blast the door open. When the old ancestor of the Sky Sword sect arrived, there would be an earth-shattering battle. He was afraid that the entire Fire God dynasty would be destroyed at that time. Therefore, compared to the future of the Fire God dynasty, the treasury was nothing. If it was destroyed, it could be rebuilt. If Yang Hongwu died in the treasury, how could the Fire God dynasty withstand the wrath of the Sky Sword sect? What's that? When they were attacking the treasury's gate, they felt a wave of energy. They immediately became alert and prepared to attack. When they saw who it was, they were overjoyed. Bai Yunjian was the first to step forward. "Junior brother Yang, it's great that you're alright. I was so worried." "Little brother Yang, what's going on here?" Huadanzi asked as he approached Yang Hongwu. "Little brother Yang, what happened? How did you get trapped inside? Song Lingwu was relieved when he saw Yang Hongwu come out safely. However, he was also very curious about what Yang Hongwu had experienced inside. How did he get trapped by the ancestral spirit? Moreover, he was now safe and sound. This was what he was curious about. After all, he had felt the anger of the ancestral spirit when he was worshipping the ancestral spirit. Even the altar had been destroyed by the ancestral spirit. It would be strange if nothing major happened. However, Yang Hongwu had returned safe and sound. He was not injured at all. Yang Hongwu smiled and said, "I've made everyone worried. Actually, I didn't encounter any major problems. However, I did obtain some inheritance." Obtained some inheritance? Song Lingwu's eyes widened. The shock in his eyes was self-evident. How could an outsider without the royal bloodline obtain an inheritance? This wasn't the fire shrine, but the national treasury and the land of ancestral spirit. Did he obtain the inheritance by entering the land of ancestral spirits? It was no wonder that the ancestral spirit was so angry. It turned out that Yang Hongwu had entered the land of ancestral spirits by accident. Now, Song Lingwu somewhat understood why Yang Hongwu had been trapped in there and angered by the ancestral spirit, but was now able to come out safely. Could it be that Yang Hongwu had the royal bloodline? If it wasn't for this, how could he have come out safely? How could he obtain the inheritance? What inheritance did you obtain? Song Lingwu asked Yang Hongwu. Fire Emperor Fist. Yang Hongwu condensed his spiritual power and punched out. A majestic flame energy burst out. The power was shocking. Yang Hongwu's punch instantly created a hole in the ground. The scorching temperature was too terrifying. The ground did not explode, but a fist-sized hole appeared. It could be seen how terrifying the control of the power of this punch was. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Creating a large hole in the ground was not a rare thing, nor was there any difficulty in doing so. However, a punch created a hole in the ground, but there was no damage to the surroundings. This was terrifying. The power did not leak out at all. It was so domineering. Song Lingwu was shocked when he saw this fist technique. Fire Emperor Fist. Only the Fire Emperor Fist could do this. The Fire Emperor Fist was the secret technique of the Fire God dynasty. Even he had only obtained a part of the inheritance. The complete Fire Emperor Fist had not been passed down for many years. In fact, in the Fire God dynasty, Zhong Wang had a high chance of obtaining the complete Fire Emperor Fist inheritance. However, Zhong Wang started a rebellion. Otherwise, the land of ancestral spirits would open again a year later. The entire Fire God dynasty's royal family would be qualified to enter. The chances of Zhong Wang obtaining the complete Fire Emperor Fist inheritance were very high. Huadanzi was also dumbfounded. Yang Hongwu actually obtained the inheritance of the Fire Emperor Fist. This was unbelievable. The Fire Emperor Fist was a technique that only the royal family of the Fire God dynasty could cultivate. Without the royal bloodline of the Fire God dynasty, it was impossible to cultivate it, let alone obtain the inheritance. However, Yang Hongwu did it. Could it be that he was a descendant of one of the kings of the Fire God dynasty? Cough cough, little brother Yang, you were able to obtain the inheritance of the Fire Emperor Fist and successfully cultivate it. Could it be that your ancestor has the royal bloodline of the Fire God dynasty? Could it be that you are a descendant of one of the ancestors of the Fire God dynasty? Song Lingwu suddenly recalled something. A few thousand years ago, a peerless genius of the Fire God dynasty had indeed gone missing. That peerless genius's bloodline was very strong and his talent was very strong. He was even stronger than the founding emperor of the Fire God dynasty. Could it be that Yang Hongwu was the descendant of that peerless genius? Yes, it must be so. This was the only explanation. He must be a descendant of that ancestor. Thinking of this, Song Lingwu was very happy. He was very clear about Yang Hongwu's talent and strength. Chapter 1337. What a blunder! If Yang Hongwu knew what Song Lingwu was thinking, he would definitely burst out laughing. This was a blunder. He had nothing to do with the Song family. Is that true? I heard that the Fire God dynasty once had a peerless genius. However, that peerless genius left the Fire God dynasty to explore the world. If little brother Yang is really the descendant of that peerless genius, then it's not surprising that little brother Yang could obtain the inheritance of the Fire Emperor Fist from the ancestral spiritual land. Huodanzi said. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, "That's not the case. I have nothing to do with the Fire God dynasty." Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Without the bloodline of the Fire God dynasty's ancestors, it's impossible to obtain the inheritance of the ancestral spiritual land. It's even more impossible to cultivate the Fire Emperor Fist. This fist technique can only be used by the imperial family of the Fire God dynasty. Song Lingwu said, "Moreover, only those with pure bloodline can cultivate it to the extreme. Think whatever you want." Yang Hongwu didn't care about this at all. He wouldn't stay in the Fire God dynasty for long. Now that he had obtained what he wanted, it was time to leave the Fire God dynasty. Of course, when he recovered his strength and had enough power to deal with the so-called Fire God, Yang Hongwu would come again and kill that so-called Fire God. After all, that guy would be a disaster if he stayed. Who knows when he would break out of the seal? At that time, his real body would descend and he would be a great threat to Yang Hongwu. Haha, I didn't expect that the heavens would open their eyes. Another peerless genius would appear in the Fire God dynasty. Song Lingwu laughed and was very happy in his heart. "Men, give my orders. Today, I want to grant amnesty and invite all the officials to a banquet." Yang Hongwu was speechless. Huodanzi shouted, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations. Your Majesty, I've gotten what I wanted." "It's time to leave," Yang Hongwu said. "How can that be? Little brother, although I don't know your seniority, in the future, you will be the divine martial king of the Fire God dynasty." Song Lingwu said. "Even if you want to leave, there's no hurry." Huodanzi was shocked when he heard this. King Shenwu was not a title that could be casually used. Bai Yunjian was also shocked. Just like the Heavenly Sword sect, the word sword wasn't something that could be casually given. In the Heavenly Sword sect, only the geniuses with outstanding talent in the sword Dao were qualified to be given the word sword. As for the others, if they were to be given the word sword, it would be very troublesome. If they couldn't bear the word sword, it would be difficult for them to advance further in the future. Of course, if he could withstand it, then his fate would improve further. Fate might seem ethereal, but it was something that truly existed. No need. Yang Hongwu didn't care about being called King Shenwu. He turned to Song Lingwu, Huodanzi and the others and said, "I'm leaving today. I'm going to the blazing divine mountain. Junior brother Yang, there's no hurry. The sect's old ancestor is already on his way. He'll be here soon. Let's wait for a while," Bai Yunjian said. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, "We can't wait. Senior brother Bai, you wait here for the sect's old ancestor. I'll go to the blazing divine mountain first." After saying that, Yang Hongwu turned into nothingness and disappeared from everyone's sight. Seeing this, Bai Yunjian and the others were stunned. This was especially true for Huodanzi, who was at the peak of the great emperor realm. His mental strength was extremely strong, but he couldn't see how Yang Hongwu had disappeared at all. This was too shocking. What a powerful escape technique! Too powerful. At this moment, Bai Yunjian finally understood why Yang Hongwu was so calm after sending Bai Yiran and the Violet Phoenix away. It was as if he wasn't worried at all no matter how big of a problem he faced. It turned out that not only did he have formations and pills, he also had such a terrifying escape technique. One had to know that only experts who had surpassed the level of invincible great emperors could escape without him noticing. Such an escape technique could only be done by experts who had surpassed the level of invincible great emperors. Since junior brother Yang has left, then I should leave too. Bai Yunjian looked at Song Linwu and Huadanzi and said, Your Majesty, Senior, let's part here. I'm going to the blazing divine mountain to find junior brother Yang. Wait, let the head consecrator go with you, Song Linwu said. Your Majesty, if I leave, what will happen to your safety? Huadanzi asked worriedly. Don't worry. No one can touch me in the palace. Song Linwu smiled and said casually. Indeed, as the emperor of the Fire God dynasty, as long as he met an enemy he couldn't defeat in the palace, he could use the power of the country's fate to raise his cultivation and suppress the enemy. All right, I'll go with junior brother Bai to the blazing divine mountain. Huadanzi nodded. After Yang Hongwu and the others left, the eyes of the old man who was sweeping the floor of the national treasury flashed. Blazing divine mountain? The old man muttered these words and then disappeared. No one knew that the old man who was sweeping the floor of the palace had disappeared. A few hours later. Blazing divine mountain. At this moment Yang Hongwu released Bai Iran. As for Zi Fengwang, she realized that she wasn't strong enough and had received the Fusang divine wood from Yang Hongwu. Therefore, Zi Fengwang didn't come out of the space of the Dragon Gate. Instead, she continued to cultivate in the space of the Dragon Gate. It's so hot. There's still some distance to the blazing divine mountain. I didn't expect it to be so hot. Bai Iran and Yang Hongwu looked at a tall mountain in the distance. That mountain looked like a huge ball of fire that was burning fiercely. The two of them were still some distance away from the blazing divine mountain. However, there wasn't any greenery on the road. It was too hot and dry. As a result, there weren't many plants that could survive within 100 miles of the blazing divine mountain. There were, but only a few that could withstand the heat. In such a scorching place, there weren't many plants. Animals were no exception. The only ones that could survive in this area were some savage beasts and fire-based exotic beasts. Along the way, Yang Hongwu encountered a few exotic beasts. They were all fire-based exotic beasts, such as the raging fire scorpion, fire viper, fire lizard, and so on. They were all exotic beasts that could withstand the heat. Suddenly, Yang Hongwu felt a cool breeze. This surprised Yang Hongwu. The closer they got to the blazing divine mountain, the higher the temperature. Yang Hongwu actually felt a cool breeze in front of them. How could Yang Hongwu not be surprised? Chapter 1338. Cold poison. Yang Hongwu pulled Bai Iran along. Their figures flashed, and in the blink of an eye, they appeared at the shady place. Yang Hongwu looked in front of him, and was incomparably astonished. This was actually a small pool. The yin qi was coming from this small pool. What made Yang Hongwu even more surprised was that there didn't seem to be any signs of life here. This made people suspicious. In such a hot place there was a small pool. In such a cool place there were no other creatures. How could this not be surprising? Logically speaking, there was a small pool here. The surrounding creatures and animals would come here to cool off and get water. However, there was no trace of animal activity here. There were no creatures around. How could Yang Hongwu not be curious? This small pool is a little strange, Bai Iran said. Be careful. Yang Hongwu nodded and said, This place is indeed a bit strange. There's no trace of animal activity. There's almost no trace of life. You wait here, I'll go take a look and see what's going on. If only Mao was here. With Mao delusion breaker eyes, he could easily find out what was going on in the spring water. No, let's go together, Bai Iran said. All right. Yang Hongwu and Bai Iran had long been telepathically connected. Bai Iran's gaze was enough for Yang Hongwu to know what she was thinking. Bai Iran held Yang Hongwu's hand. Yang Hongwu nodded and walked towards the small pool with Bai Iran. To Yang Hongwu's surprise, the closer he got to the small pool, the lower the temperature became. Even Yang Hongwu felt a slight chill. Shock. Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. No wonder there were almost no traces of animal activity here. The temperature was very low, and the closer they got, the lower the temperature. Could it be that extreme yang gave birth to yin? If that was the case, they would have picked up a treasure. Extreme yang could produce yin, or extreme yin could produce yang. Both were treasures. However, this wasn't a place of extreme yang. If it was a place of extreme yang, then it would be in the depths of the blazing divine mountain. However, there were divine flames in the depths of the blazing sacred mountain. Thus, it was impossible for an item of extreme yin to appear. Thus, this small pond was indeed extremely strange. However, no matter what, Yang Hongwu wanted to explore the small pond. Regardless of what it was extraordinary. Even if it wasn't an item of extreme yin, it was definitely a treasure. If he could obtain it, it might be of great help to him when he entered the depths of the flaming godly mountain. After all, Bai Yiran had a pure yin sacred body. It would not be as easy for her to enter the depths of the flaming sacred mountain as it had been for Yang Hongwu. Therefore, if she could have an item of extreme yin to protect her, Bai Yiran would be protected while entering the flaming sacred mountain. At the same time, her cultivation would also rise to a higher level. Soon, the two of them arrived less than 3 feet away from the small pool. Strange! Yang Hongwu was even more astonished. The cold yin qi of this small pool was indeed shocking. However, it was different from ordinary treasures of extreme yin. The cold yin qi here had a unique aura. This aura was extremely evil and strange. If one was contaminated by it, unless one was an expert of the late great emperor realm or above, one would definitely die. This was why Yang Hongwu was so astonished. Poison, Bai Yiran said. Husband, this should be a kind of cold poison. Yang Hongwu nodded. This was the only possibility. This was a kind of cold poison, and not an ordinary cold poison. The cold poison of extreme yin was absolutely terrifying. Yang Hongwu was an alchemist. Naturally, he had studied poisons. Although he had not cultivated the true poison arts, he still had a good understanding of them. Extreme yin cold poison was definitely a terrifying poison. If it exploded, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles would become a land of death. Not even a blade of grass would grow. This kind of cold poison was more terrifying than any other kind of poison. If one could refine this kind of poison, one could definitely become an emperor-grade poison master. Among the 3,000 great Taoists, one of them was the poison Tao. Those who cultivated the poison Tao were extremely terrifying. They were comparable to those who cultivated the death Tao. In fact, the poison Tao and the death Tao came from the same source. It could be said that the poison Tao was a branch of the death Tao. However, if one cultivated this branch to the peak and obtained an unparalleled poison, it would be extremely terrifying. In the early stage, those who cultivated the poison Tao and comprehended the poison Tao were even more terrifying than those who cultivated the death Tao. The cold poison here was very likely to be extreme yin cold poison. If there was someone who cultivated the poison Tao, or a poison master, who could refine it, they would probably become an unparalleled poison master. Yiran, you're right. This should be a kind of cold poison. Moreover, it's an extremely powerful cold poison. However, this cold poison has not matured yet. Yang Hongwu said. However, if this thing can be used well, it would be a great killing weapon. When Yang Hongwu said this, his eyes flashed with a trace of light. To Yang Hongwu there was nothing taboo. To him, demonic weapons, evil weapons, poison weapons, or the so-called evil arts, Yang Hongwu did not hate them too much. No matter what it was, if it was used for good, it would be good. If it was used for evil, it would be evil. Are you confident? Bai Yiran asked. Yang Hongwu said, I can give it a try. Yang Hongwu was not a poison master. He did not have enough confidence to refine the extreme yin cold poison. However, Yang Hongwu had the antidote in his hand and the protection of the divine fire. He was still somewhat confident. The cold poison in the pool probably had not reached the level where it could become extremely powerful. It had not formed intelligence yet. If it did, it would be terrifying. Even so, Yang Hongwu did not dare to be careless. "Ichi into Sanqing, come out." As Yang Hongwu shouted, Yang Hongwu waved his hand. An incarnation appeared beside him. This was the Ichi into Sanqing secret technique that Yang Hongwu had obtained. Although this incarnation did not have Yang Hongwu's full strength, it still had 90% of his combat strength. Yang Hongwu was not the same as before. Although his cultivation had not recovered to its peak, he had a deeper understanding of the Ichi into Sanqing technique and other secret techniques than before. When he used them, they were much stronger than before. If they were in the same cultivation realm, they would be several times stronger than before. Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran retreated several feet. The incarnation strode toward the pool. The closer it got, the lower the temperature of the pool. Yang Hongwu's incarnation was about to be frozen. Yang Hongwu even felt that his soul was about to be frozen. Terrifying, extremely terrifying. Chapter 1339. The source of all evil curses. What a terrifying cold poison. Yang Hongwu took a deep breath and said, "But it's not enough to stop me." Yang Hongwu's incarnation circulated its dermic powers and instantly dispelled the terrifying cold. "Let me see your true face." Yang Hongwu guessed that there must be a powerful cold poison here. Moreover, it must be a cold poison of extreme mean. However, he was not sure what it was exactly. Yang Hongwu's dermic powers condensed into a huge hand and grabbed at the small pool. When the huge hand grabbed at the item in the pool, a powerful force erupted and instantly dispersed the huge hand made of dermic powers. Yang Hongwu was extremely surprised. It was indeed powerful. "Saber, come!" Yang Hongwu shouted in a low voice. Then, he stretched out his big hand, and a saber instantly appeared in his hand. Raging dragon breaks the sky. With a loud shout, powerful dermic powers poured into the saber. When the saber slashed out, the saber chi was ferocious and domineering. It was like a domineering divine dragon that could destroy all obstacles. The saber chi arrived in an instant. Then, a silver-white force erupted from the pool. It looked like a silver ribbon. The saber chi collided with the silver ribbon, and there was a crack, crack sound. What shocked Yang Hongwu was that his saber was actually frozen. He had to admit that the item in the small pool was beyond his expectations. "Husband, there seems to be a great terror in the small pool. Why don't we go around it?" Bai Yiran said worriedly. "I have a bad feeling in my heart. I'm afraid there's an extremely evil item in there." "Even if it's an extremely evil item, we still have to give it a try." Yang Hongwu said, "Don't worry. I have the Scroll of Fortune, the Dragon Gate and the Destruction Sky Palace. No matter how powerful the evil item is, as long as its strength is not beyond the Great Emperor realm, I can protect myself." Yang Hongwu's incarnation continued to move forward. Yang Hongwu had already brought out the Destruction Sky Palace. The Destruction Sky Palace was a supreme treasure that evolved from the Death Dao Palace. The Death Dao Palace was originally an extremely evil demonic treasure. Now that Yang Hongwu had merged it with the sky-piercing demon bridge, it had become the Destruction Sky Palace. Its original attribute of power did not change. With the help of the Destruction Sky Palace, Yang Hongwu was no longer worried that the item in the small pool would suddenly erupt. Yang Hongwu knew that it was very dangerous, but there were also great opportunities. He faintly felt that this place was not as simple as the extreme cold poison. If there was something more terrifying than the extreme cold poison, then it would be really terrifying. Could it be a talisman? Yang Hongwu had not obtained a real talisman of the 8 great divine talismans. Among the 8 great divine talismans, there were extreme Yin and extreme Yang divine talismans. If it was a divine talisman, then he would be rich. Of course, Yang Hongwu was just thinking about it. If it was really a divine talisman, how could it be so easy to obtain it? Open for me! Yang Hongwu roared again. A vast energy burst out, instantly breaking through the layers of cold mist. Yang Hongwu focused his eyes and saw an eyeball-like object shooting out a ray of light. In an instant, Yang Hongwu's incarnation was sent flying dozens of meters away. Yang Hongwu withdrew his incarnation with a thought. Did you get a good look? Bairan asked. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like an eyeball. Yang Hongwu took a deep breath and said, however, its power is very terrifying. I feel that the attack just now was only a small part of its power. Although it was just a glimpse, the eyeball seemed to be engraved in Yang Hongwu's mind. This eyeball was very strange, and there were strange curses on it. The power of curses. The power of all evil curses. This information flashed in Yang Hongwu's mind. I know what it is. Yang Hongwu took a deep breath and said, what is it? Bairan was worried. After all, the attack just now had sent Yang Hongwu's incarnation flying with 90% of its power. Moreover, it was under the protection of the Destruction Sky Palace. It was obvious how terrifying that thing was. Seeing Yang Hongwu's pale face, Bairan's heart ached. That thing seems to be the legendary source of all evil curses, Yang Hongwu said. At the mention of this, Yang Hongwu felt a trace of fear. The power of curses, and the source of the most powerful power of all evil curses, how could it not be terrifying? This thing was something that would make one's face pale even in the domain of the gods. Even those who had surpassed the Tai True God realm would have a headache over it. No one would touch this thing. Once touched, even those who had surpassed the Tai True God realm would not be able to remove it. Yang Hongwu had seen the power of curses before. Back then, he had paid a great price to remove the power of curses. Now, facing this thing, Yang Hongwu really did not have enough confidence. Why is there such a terrifying thing here? Bairan's face darkened. Let's leave this place quickly. Otherwise, we will be in trouble if we are entangled by that thing. Bairan had naturally heard of the source of all evil curses. This thing was the most evil and terrifying existence in the Great Thousand World. It was also a malignant tumor of the Great Thousand Universe. Don't worry, Yang Hongwu said, that thing should have been sealed. The power that it can release is less than a billionth of its original power. Yang Hongwu's heart was palpitating. If that thing had not been sealed, he would have been destroyed by that attack. However, Yang Hongwu was not willing to just leave and give up like this. Yang Hongwu was not willing to give up. Although the source of all evil curses was terrifying, now that it had been sealed, its power was less than a billionth of its original power. If he could obtain it and use it to trick others, it would be the best. That thing isn't something that we can handle. I'm afraid that it must have been sealed here by some unparalleled expert. I think it's best that we leave this place. If we were to break the seal in the slightest, I'm afraid this entire world would be finished. Bairan said. Yang Hongwu shook his head slightly. Looking at Yang Hongwu's expression, Bairan said, Husband, don't tell me you still want this thing. Chapter 1340. Yunjian chases after us. Yang Hongwu saw Bairan's worry and knew what she was thinking. He gently patted Bairan's shoulder and said, Iran, don't worry. I won't do anything I'm not confident in. This seal is very strong. With my current strength, it's impossible for me to destroy it. I'm just trying to see if I can devour this power. If I can, my strength will recover quickly. No, absolutely not. It's too dangerous. I won't agree to it. Bairan shook his head and said firmly. What was the source of all evil curses? Yang Hongwu was such a terrifying existence. How could Bairan agree to this? This was too terrifying. If there was even the slightest mistake, the consequences would be unimaginable. Of course, I know the danger, but I'm confident, Yang Hongwu said. That won't do either. If you dare try to devour that thing, I'll tell all my sisters that I won't bother with you anymore, Bairan said. When Yang Hongwu heard this, he was also speechless. Since when did Bairan learn to say such things? However, Yang Hongwu knew very well that Bairan was doing this for his own good. She was worried about him. After all, the source of all evil and curses was no ordinary thing. Just as Yang Hongwu was about to speak, there was a fluctuation in the void. Yang Hongwu's eyes narrowed. Someone was coming, but at this time and in this place, Yang Hongwu couldn't help but be vigilant. In that instant, Yang Hongwu pulled Bairan into his arms and tossed something into the air. Then, he formed hand seals and formed a formation that concealed Yang Hongwu, Bairan, and the small pond. After the space squirmed for a while, several figures appeared. When Yang Hongwu saw this, he heaved a sigh of relief. The newcomers were none other than Bai Yunjian and Huodanzi. Of course, there were also a few elders that Yang Hongwu didn't recognize. However, the auras of these elders were extremely powerful. One of them was a tall and skinny elder with black hair. His cultivation was the strongest, even stronger than Huodanzi's. He was probably only a step away from becoming an invincible great sovereign expert. However, a single step was just a single step. There was still a huge gap between his strength and that of an invincible emperor. There were 3 of them in total. Including Huodanzi and Bai Yunjian, there were 5 of them. Yang Hongwu knew that Bai Yunjian and the others had probably come for him. As for the 3 old men, they were probably the old ancestors of the Sky Sword sect. What's going on? Bai Yunjian, where is the person you were talking about? The tall and thin old man asked. Martial ancestor, junior brother Yang's aura is clearly here, but we can't see him. I'm afraid junior brother Yang has hidden himself. Bai Yunjian smiled bitterly. Martial ancestor, you may not know this, but junior brother Yang is extremely powerful in the Tao of formations. I'm afraid that no one in the common people's continent is more powerful than junior brother Yang in the Tao of formations. Is that true? The other gray-robed old man asked. Master, when have I ever lied? I can prove this point. Huodanzi said. Junior brother, come out. At this time, Bai Yunjian had no other choice. If Yang Hongwu didn't take the initiative to appear, they really wouldn't be able to find Yang Hongwu's existence. Back then, if Yang Hongwu hadn't agreed to become a disciple of the Sky Sword sect and made the Sky Sword sect disciple token recognize him as its master, they really wouldn't have been able to find Yang Hongwu's whereabouts. The Sky Sword sect disciple token that Bai Yunjian gave Yang Hongwu was a very special token. Only the core disciples of the Sky Sword sect and the Sky Sword sect's inner sect elders and above could have this token. Normal genius disciples didn't have the qualifications to have this token. The uniqueness of this token was that no matter where the token was, the Sky Sword sect's disciples could use a special secret technique to sense the location of the token. Bairan and Yang Hongwu were in the formation. Seeing that Bai Yunjian and the others had arrived, Bairan let out a sigh of relief. Since they had arrived, Yang Hongwu wouldn't be able to touch the terrifying source of the cursed evil anymore. Husband, it's Bai Yunjian and the others. Shouldn't we go out and meet them? Bairan looked at Yang Hongwu and asked. No, let's observe the situation first. I didn't expect Bai Yunjian and the others to be so powerful. This small token actually made me overlook it. I was very surprised that they could use this token to lock onto my aura and location. He could study this token carefully. If he had such a token or treasure back then, he would have been able to locate the location of the girls easily. It wouldn't have taken him so long to find Bairan. Yang Hongwu's consciousness scanned the token and discovered that it was indeed unique. There was actually a tracking formation set up in the depths of the token, as well as a special restriction. This formation and restriction were extremely difficult to refine. It definitely wasn't something that ordinary people could refine. To refine this token, one needed to be at least an invincible great emperor's strength. Moreover, even an invincible great emperor would find it extremely difficult to refine such a token. It would take a very long time to refine one. Therefore, Yang Hongwu guessed that not many people in the Sky Sword sect were qualified to possess this token. The method used to refine this token is indeed astonishing. Bai Yiran took the token and examined it. Although Bai Yiran didn't know as much as Yang Hongwu and wasn't an array master or alchemist, she was definitely more knowledgeable than the average person. If I had such a token back then, I wouldn't have been separated from the girls, Bai Yiran said. Yes. Yang Hongwu also sighed. Junior brother Yang, Grandmaster and Master are here. Junior brother Yang, please show yourself, Bai Yunjian shouted from outside the formation. This little fellow seems a little embarrassed. The tall and thin elder smiled faintly and didn't seem to mind. That little bastard hasn't even been formally accepted into the Sky Sword sect, yet he's already so arrogant. I'll definitely teach him a lesson in the future, the gray-robed elder said. In my opinion, not bad. He has character. He's the most suitable person to be my disciple. The tall and thin elder laughed heartily. I like people like him. He has the same style as I did back then. The gray-robed elder's face darkened. Master, didn't you say that I'm your only disciple and that you won't accept anyone else? Although that kid is a little bastard, it's still better for me to accept him as my disciple. It's the same for you as Grandmaster. Did I say that? The tall and thin elder retorted. The gray-robed elder's face darkened. Even Huadanzi and Bai Yunjian were speechless. This old ancestor was actually acting shamelessly. Chapter 1341. Great change in the flaming sacred mountain. That's right. Yunjian is right. Master, let's find that little fellow first. If anything happens to that little fellow, it would be the greatest loss to our Sky Sword sect. As Bai Yunjian's master and the sect master of the Sky Sword sect, Gui Longping naturally didn't want to see such a monstrous genius fall, especially when this genius had already become a disciple of the Sky Sword sect. Yes. Lien Rinshan nodded. In the Sky Sword sect, he had the highest seniority and was also the strongest. The sect master was his disciple, and the most outstanding Bai Yunjian was his grand disciple. Now that he knew that there was a monstrous genius who was even more outstanding than Bai Yunjian, he was tempted to take him in as his disciple. For a cultivator, it was the happiest thing for a disciple to be stronger than their master. Generally speaking, to a cultivator, there were two things that were very important and occupied an important position in their hearts. The first was cultivation strength, which was unquestionable to any cultivator. The second was inheritance. For a cultivator, no matter how strong or how talented he was, or how many secret techniques, martial skills, or even supreme skills he had invented, it would be a great pain if he did not leave behind a succession. As for the inheritance, it was related to the acceptance of a disciple. If one could obtain a good disciple, it would be a rare opportunity for cultivators. For a cultivator, an outstanding disciple was even more important than their own children. Therefore, when he knew that there was a monstrous genius who was even more outstanding than Bai Yunjian joining the Sky Sword sect, he couldn't sit still. When Bai Yunjian joined the sect, he was already tempted. However, Bai Yunjian had become his disciple, Gui Longping's disciple, and became his grand disciple. There was no use regretting it. But now there was an even more monstrous and heaven-defying genius. How could he not be tempted? One must know that someone who could comprehend the heavenly one-sword formation at the Saint Realm, how monstrous was that? Everyone only knew that the Heavenly Sword sect revered their sword arts. In truth, very few people knew that the Heavenly Sword sect's formations were also incomparably powerful. The most powerful of them all was the sword formation. That was the true foundation of the Heavenly Sword sect. However, countless years had passed, and no one from the Heavenly Sword sect was as outstanding in both the Tao of Sword and the Tao of Formations. There were already monstrous geniuses, and now that one had appeared, how could he give up? If there was a need, so what if he had to sacrifice all the heavenly sword sex emperors? This was the value of a peerless genius, a peerless genius. In comparison, the other geniuses were incomparable to them. In the previous heavenly sword sect, Bai Yunjian's status was extremely high. Compared to Bai Yunjian, any other genius in the heavenly sword sect could be sacrificed. But now, if Yang Hongwu was really as monstrous and outstanding as Bai Yunjian had described, then any other disciple of the heavenly sword sect, including Bai Yunjian, or even the sect leader of the heavenly sword sect, Gui Longping, could be sacrificed under certain circumstances. However, if Yang Hongwu was really as monstrous and outstanding as he was, yet he was unwilling to become a disciple of the heavenly sword sect, then he must be eliminated. He could not be allowed to become a disciple of another sect. Rumble. Just as Yang Hongwu was about to activate the formation and leave, a great change took place all of a sudden. The ground began to tremble as a terrifying earthquake took place. The formation instantly collapsed. Terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. Fierce flames surged out like ferocious beasts baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. What's going on? Great change in the flaming godly mountain. Huadanzi's expression changed greatly. Why did it have to come now of all times? Great change in the flaming godly mountain. This. Damn it, what terrifying flames. Have they become spirits? Gui Longping's expression turned ugly as he looked at the surging flames before him. Brother Hua, is there any way to deal with the situation before us? Could it be that junior brother Yang disappeared because of this great change? Bai Yunjian was thinking of Yang Hongwu at this moment. You must find my disciple, Lien Rinshan said. On the other side, Yang Hongwu had already used the void travel technique. He hugged Bai Yiran and disappeared. However, Yang Hongwu was surprised that his yin-yang void shuttle could only travel a limited distance in the flaming godly mountain. There was no way for him to escape from the area of this great change. However, it was fortunate that he had the void travel technique, which allowed him to escape from the epicenter of the great change. The sudden change shocked Yang Hongwu. Terrifying, too terrifying. The power that erupted from this great change was beyond his imagination. On one side was the source of the extremely evil and poisonous curse of all evil. On the other side was the terrifying flames. The flames were beyond Yang Hongwu's expectations. Originally, Yang Hongwu thought that the most powerful flames here would be the God-destroying heavenly flame and the void divine flame. However, the flames that erupted from this great change were also extremely powerful. In fact, they weren't any weaker than the God-destroying heavenly flame and the void divine flame. What was even more shocking was that the power of the flames had actually merged with the power of the earth. Logically speaking, these two types of powers shouldn't be considered as mutually reinforcing powers. In fact, they might even counter each other. However, who would have thought that these two types of powers would actually merge perfectly, causing the flames to become even more overbearing and terrifying? This was probably the reason why this heavenly flame could contend against the God-destroying heavenly flame and the void divine flame. Master, this flame is too terrifying. It's unstoppable. Gui Longping threw out a treasure that contained the majestic power of the water dragon. The moment the water dragon was thrown out, it evaporated instantly. Gui Longping was terrified. This flame was definitely not an ordinary flame. If it was an ordinary heavenly flame, his water dragon would have been able to extinguish it. However, not only did it not extinguish it, it even evaporated in an instant. This was enough to show how terrifying this flame was. If this flame were to burn one's body, one would probably turn into nothingness within a breath's time. Although he knew that the flaming sacred mountain was terrifying, he had not expected it to be to this extent. It was no wonder that the experts who had entered this place, including the invincible great emperors, couldn't get out and had fallen here. Once one was surrounded by such a terrifying flame, only death would await them. There was no chance of survival. Seeing that his master Lien Rinshan was about to approach the terrifying flame, Gui Longping jumped in fright and shouted, "Master, no, you can't. This flame is extremely terrifying. It's unstoppable. If you touch it, your life will be in danger." Chapter 1342. Terrifying flames. Although Lien Rinshan's sword did not completely destroy the flame, it did force the flame back a little. However, it was only a little. Moreover, it was only a small part of the flame. Compared to the real terrifying heavenly flame, it was simply insignificant. Retreat. The group of 5 instantly retreated. In a breath's time, they had retreated more than 100 feet. Even so, Gui Longping and the others could still feel the terrifying heat. It was as if they were going to be roasted dry. It's over. This flame is so terrifying. I'm afraid little brother Yang is doomed. Huadanzi looked at the raging flames in front of him and sighed. The flames were too terrifying. Even great emperors like them were powerless in the face of such terrifying flames. Yang Hongwu was only a saint. Therefore, Huadanzi guessed that Yang Hongwu was doomed. The chances of him surviving were not high. "Impossible," Lien Rinshan said. "Nothing will happen to my disciple. Since he is a peerless genius with great fortune, how can he die here? He is my disciple. He can't die." Lien Rinshan glared at Huadanzi. "You little brat, how dare you curse my disciple? Do you believe that I won't kill you?" Huadanzi smiled bitterly. He did not expect old Master Lien to be so angry after hearing his words. After all, Lien Rinshan had never seen Yang Hongwu before. However, it made sense. A monstrous genius like Yang Hongwu would be wanted as a disciple. He had wanted to take Yang Hongwu as a disciple. However, he did not expect Yang Hongwu to be so monstrous. In terms of alchemy, Yang Hongwu was much, much stronger than him. It would be more appropriate to take him as a disciple. How could he let Yang Hongwu become his disciple? Wouldn't that be a joke? Martial ancestor, don't worry. Junior brother Yang's aura is still there. However, he has escaped and is not inside. At this moment, Bai Yunjian, who was very worried about Yang Hongwu, heaved a sigh of relief after checking. Yang Hongwu's aura was originally at the center of the exotic flame. However, he was now at the periphery. Realizing this, Bai Yunjian heaved a sigh of relief. "Is that so? Haha, I knew my disciple would be fine." Lien Rinshan laughed loudly. "Little Yunjian, hurry up and take me to my disciple." Lien Rinshan was a little impatient. This place was too dangerous. He had to find Yang Hongwu and bring him back to the Sky Sword sect. He could not let anything happen to Yang Hongwu. It changed again. Bai Yunjian, who was about to take action, discovered that Yang Hongwu's aura and position had changed again. "What's going on?" Gui Longping frowned. "Yunjian, did something happen again?" Bai Yunjian was about to answer when his face suddenly changed. "Not good. Junior brother Yang's aura has disappeared. It has completely disappeared." "Didn't you just say that my disciple's aura had gone to a safe place in the periphery? How could it disappear all of a sudden?" Lien Rinshan's face was ugly. "Martial ancestor, this was indeed the case. Junior brother Yang's aura had already gone to a safe place in the periphery. However, his aura changed again and he went into the depths of the blazing sacred mountain. Just now, his aura suddenly disappeared." Bai Yunjian smiled bitterly. He also did not know what was going on. The depths of the blazing sacred mountain? Huadanzi sucked in a breath of cold air. They were only at the periphery of the blazing sacred mountain, and they had already encountered such terrifying flames. If they went into the depths of the blazing sacred mountain, how terrifying would it be? If he went into the depths of the blazing sacred mountain, then it's really, shut up. Lien Rinshan hated Huadanzi's words very much. "Don't you have anything good to say?" This time, Lien Rinshan was really angry. "Senior Lien, actually, little brother Yang is very lucky. Moreover, He is very strong. When he left the Fire God dynasty and came to the blazing sacred mountain, he was very confident. His goal was to subdue the divine flame. I think that nothing will happen to little brother Yang. Who knows, maybe when little brother Yang comes out, he will have already subdued the divine flame. Huadanzi changed the topic. Why didn't you stop him at that time? Lien Rinshan was very angry. How can a divine flame be subdued so easily? Old brat, you're already a peak great emperor. After so many years, you still haven't subdued the divine flame. How can a little kid like him subdue the divine flame? And you, Bai Yunjian, you little brat. Divine flame, doesn't our Sky Sword sect have another divine flame? That divine flame is useless in the sect. Since no one else can subdue it, why not just give it to him? With our help, the chances of him subduing the divine flame of the Sky Sword sect are very high. Why did you let him come to the blazing sacred mountain? Bai Yunjian had an aggrieved expression as he smiled bitterly and said, Martial ancestor, I told junior brother Yang long ago, but he didn't listen. Moreover, junior brother Yang's escape technique is unpredictable. I wanted to stop him at that time, but it was simply too late. What junior brother Yang? You should call him Martial Uncle, little Martial Uncle. Lien Rinshan glared at him and said, I hope your little Martial Uncle is safe. If anything happens to him, you'll be grounded for 1,000 years. Bai Yunjian felt wronged. Not only did he lose a generation, but if something happened to Yang Hongwu, he would be grounded for 1,000 years. What kind of situation was this? However, Bai Yunjian hoped from the bottom of his heart that Yang Hongwu could return safely. At this moment, Yang Hongwu didn't know that Lien Rinshan cared so much about him. A person he hadn't even met before was actually so concerned about his safety. At this moment, Yang Hongwu threw the token Bai Yunjian gave him into the space of the Dragon Gate. It would be strange if Bai Yunjian could still sense his aura in the space of the Dragon Gate. It should be known that the ancient Dragon Gate was very powerful. It was an existence that surpassed a true treasure and could compete with a divine talisman. Since the token was thrown into the space of the Dragon Gate, its aura couldn't be transmitted out. Naturally, the tracking array was useless. Yang Hongwu was quite surprised when he knew that Bai Yunjian and the others had come. One should know that the blazing sacred mountain was full of danger. He didn't expect that Bai Yunjian, Huadanzi and the others would come to the blazing sacred mountain to look for him. They were risking their lives to come here. Therefore, he was prepared to go out and meet them. He didn't expect that such a big change would happen when he was about to open the array. Chapter 1343. 9th grade Fire Lotus. Yang Hongwu had entered the depths of the flaming sacred mountain because he felt threatened. His plan was to refine the God-annihilating heavenly flame and void divine flame first. Then, his strength would advance by leaps and bounds, and he might even be able to enter the great saint realm. In that way, his strength would increase, and he would naturally be confident in dealing with the huge change before him. Although he didn't know what was going on with the terrifying flames, Yang Hongwu had a faint guess that this change was probably related to the source of all evil and cursed. I can sense the God-annihilating heavenly flame, said Yang Hongwu. Come, let's go. Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran's figures flashed, and they disappeared once more. In the next moment, they appeared in front of a ball of flame in the depths of the flaming sacred mountain. This ball of flame was very special, and its aura was very strong. However, Yang Hongwu couldn't be more familiar with it. It was the God-annihilating heavenly flame that he had refined before. After Yang Hongwu appeared, the God-annihilating heavenly flame transformed into a fire dragon and charged towards Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu stretched out his right hand, and a strand of magic power condensed in the void. This strand of magic power instantly merged with the God-annihilating heavenly flame, and then Yang Hongwu absorbed the God-annihilating heavenly flame into his body. In Yang Hongwu's spiritual sea, The red lotus of karmic fire sensed the aura of the god annihilating heavenly flame, and it immediately came out and madly devoured the energy of the god annihilating heavenly flame. Yang Hongwu didn't stop it. The speed at which the red lotus of karmic fire devoured the god annihilating heavenly flame was shocking, and its aura grew stronger and stronger in the process. Devour it! Yang Hongwu broke into a smile. As the god annihilating heavenly flame was devoured, Yang Hongwu's cultivation rose as well. 8th level Saint Realm. After devouring the god annihilating heavenly flame, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had reached the 8th level Saint Realm. If he devoured the void divine flame as well, his cultivation should be able to break through to the 9th level Saint Realm. Let's go. After devouring the god destroying heavenly flame, Yang Hongwu ventured deeper. Soon, Yang Hongwu found the void divine flame. He found the location of the nihility divine flame. However, it didn't rush towards Yang Hongwu like the god-slaying heavenly flame. Instead, it condensed into a face, a very ferocious one. Yang Hongwu squinted his eyes. He had not expected the great void divine flame to possess a sliver of intelligence. Furthermore, it was a sliver of evil intent. Scram! Get out of here! The evil face opened its mouth and berated loudly. Nihility divine flame, you'd better come over here. Yang Hongwu coldly snorted. So what if the nihility divine flame had gained sentience? It was naive for a mere strand of evil to think that it could resist his will. Yang Hongwu could faintly feel that the birth of the strand of evil might be related to the great change and the terrifying flame from before. Although he didn't know what had caused such a change, Yang Hongwu had guessed that the flaming sacred mountain was born from the appearance of the god-destroying heavenly flame and the nihility divine flame. However, it seemed that things weren't as simple as they seemed. You deserve to die. The nihility divine flame was enraged. It turned into an evil dragon with a ferocious look. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards Yang Hongwu. It wanted to tear Yang Hongwu into pieces and burn him to ashes. The temperature in the surroundings became terrifying. Wherever the evil dragon went, everything turned into nothingness. It was likely that everything would be burned and devoured by the terrifying flames. This was the power of the nihility divine flame. It could burn everything into nothingness. Yang Hongwu wasn't afraid. He curled his lips into a smile. After all, the nihility divine flame was a divine flame that he had refined before. Although it had given birth to a strand of evil, its nature hadn't changed. Moreover, Yang Hongwu had released the red karmic fire lotus. The red karmic fire lotus was already extremely powerful. After devouring the energy of the god-destroying heavenly flame, it became even more powerful. On the other hand, the trace of evil thought that was born from the nihility divine flame was contaminated with karmic power. The red karmic fire lotus was the nemesis of karmic power. All karmic power was the energy of the red karmic fire lotus. Devouring karmic power could make the red karmic fire lotus stronger. Therefore, Yang Hongwu was willing to let the red karmic fire lotus devour the god-destroying heavenly flame and the nihility divine flame. The red karmic fire lotus revealed its true form. It was a huge red lotus. The red karmic fire lotus was much bigger than before. When Yang Hongwu had obtained the red karmic fire lotus, it was only a 6th grade red lotus. After devouring the god-destroying heavenly flame, it became an 8th grade red lotus. Now that it had devoured the nihility divine flame, it was still growing. After devouring more than half of the nihility divine flame, the strength of the red karmic fire lotus increased again. It became a 9th grade red karmic fire lotus and was still growing. However, Yang Hongwu knew that it was impossible for the red karmic fire lotus to reach the 10th grade. After a dozen breaths, the red karmic fire lotus devoured the nihility divine flame completely. Red karmic fire lotus, how much flame energy can you devour? Yang Hongwu asked. Yang Hongwu's cultivation had reached the peak of the ninth heaven saint realm. It was not easy for him to break through the shackles and enter the great saint realm. What puzzled Yang Hongwu was that in the untainted three realms, the level 12 golden lotus, the level 12 black lotus, and the level 12 red lotus of hellfire were merely primordial spiritual treasures. But now, after obtaining the red lotus of hellfire and devouring the god-killing heavenly fire and the void divine fire, Yang Hongwu was clear that the level 9 red lotus of hellfire was much more powerful than the level 12 red lotus of hellfire in the untainted three realms. However, Yang Hongwu shook his head. Perhaps it was because of the different levels of the planes. The power of law was different and the way of heaven was different. Therefore, the level of strength was also different. Brother, I can devour more. This mountain contains powerful flame energy and boundless karma. There is a flame that is more powerful than the two flames I devoured just now. If I can devour this flame, I should be able to reach the 12th level, said the red karmic fire lotus. Yang Hongwu was shocked when he heard this. He asked in disbelief, Red karmic fire lotus, is that true? Yes, master. If I devour that flame, I can definitely reach the 12th level, said the red karmic fire lotus firmly. Chapter 1344. Source of poisonous flame. I'm only a little bit away from level 10. This flame contains a great amount of karma. Plus, I can definitely break through to level 12 if I devour it, Huolian said. That's great. Yang Hongwu nodded. However, I can't help you too much. The god-destroying heavenly flame and void divine flame are my flames. This unknown heavenly flame is very ferocious. It's not a flame that I've refined before. So, I can't help you too much. Don't worry, brother. I just need you to help me contain it. This flame can't escape from my control. Huolian's figure kept flickering. The red flame kept jumping above the lotus. Yang Hongwu teleported and appeared at the place where the flame was raging. It's the poisonous fire Kylin. Yang Hongwu saw the ferocious flame clearly. It turned out to be a poisonous fire Kylin. Yang Hongwu was speechless. When this guy attacked him, by Yunjian and the others, this guy transformed into a fire dragon. But this guy's real body was actually a poison fire Qilin. This guy actually knew how to disguise himself. This was too surprising. No, brother. It's not a poisonous fire Kylin. Huolian shook her head. To Yang Hongwu's surprise, this guy changed again. It turned into a primordial fire dragon. This? Yang Hongwu asked, what's its real body? This is the source of poisonous flame. Huolian said. Big brother, this guy should be a poisonous flame source. Outside, there's also a cursed all-evil source. However, both of them are only incomplete essences. The poisonous flame source is a bit weaker. As for the cursed all-evil source, it's sealed. If it's unsealed, I'm afraid this world will be completely destroyed. As for the poisonous flame source, it's much weaker than the cursed all-evil source. However, it's still not to be underestimated. Yang Hongwu was shocked when he heard Huolian's words. Huolian actually knew so much. It seemed that Huolian's origin was not that simple. Fire Lotus, how do you know all this? Yang Hongwu asked. When Huolian heard this, she said, I don't know either. When I saw this information appeared in my memory. I don't know how it came about. Hearing this, Yang Hongwu thought that the origin of the Fire Lotus was indeed not simple. Perhaps the predecessor of the Fire Lotus was also an extraordinary existence. Perhaps it was a 24th grade Red Lotus of Hellfire, or even a 36th grade Red Lotus of Hellfire. For it to be reduced to such a state, it was probably beaten down. No matter what, now that the Fiery Lotus had recognized him as its master, Yang Hongwu had nothing to worry about. Even if the Fiery Lotus reached the 36th grade and recovered its original strength and memory, so what? The Fire Lotus was still his and nothing would change. Yang Hongwu didn't think that there was anyone who was strong enough to erase his contract. If there was really such a terrifying cultivation, then it would be too terrifying. Big brother, I'm going to devour this poison fire source now. I need to burn away the karma of this poison fire source. Huolian said. I'll have to trouble Big Brother to help me contain it. Don't worry. Yang Hongwu protected by Iran. Then, he waved his hand and displayed the fire control technique to the extreme. A formation also appeared. This formation was a fire control formation. Without the Red Lotus of Hellfire, Yang Hongwu's formation wouldn't be able to suppress the poison fire source. However, with the Red Lotus of Hellfire's resistance, burning away the karma of the poison fire source and restraining most of its power, Yang Hongwu could use this formation to restrain the poison fire source. He didn't need to waste too much energy. Damn it. Red Lotus of Hellfire. It's actually the Red Lotus of Hellfire. The poison fire source turned into a poison fire Kylan. It looked at the Red Lotus of Hellfire and let out a loud scream. Stop it. Stop it. Red Lotus of Hellfire. We have minded our own business. Why are you attacking me? The karma on your body is too heavy. You're the poison fire source. I'm going to purify you on behalf of heaven. Huolian's tone was righteous. If Huolian could turn into a human, it wouldn't be strange. But now it was just a lotus. How could it say such righteous words? It looked very strange. Damn it. You're just a level 9 expert. You want to purify me? You're dreaming. I won't let you succeed. The poison fire source was furious. It turned into a poison fire Kylan and rushed towards Huolian. It opened its huge mouth and revealed its sharp teeth. It wanted to tear the huge red lotus apart. However, it was in vain. Before poison fire Kylan could get close, it was devoured by the flames on the huge red lotus. The black karma on poison fire Kylan was purified by the red flames on the red lotus. It turned into pure energy and was devoured by Huolian. After a while, Huolian grew its 10th petal. Now Huolian had become a level 10 red lotus of Hellfire. Its strength had improved. Every petal of Huolian's lotus increased its strength by several times. Originally, Huolian was able to suppress the poison fire source. Now Huolian had become a level 10 red lotus. Huolian's strength had steadily suppressed the poison fire source. At this time, Huolian didn't need Yang Hongwu to use the formation to restrain the poison fire source. Bastard, stop, stop. Poison fire source shouted. Huolian didn't seem to hear it. It was crazily devouring the poison fire source's strength. Poison fire source saw that Huolian wasn't moved. It turned to Yang Hongwu. Human. A light flashed in poison fire source's huge eyes. It was now forced into a dead end. If it continued, it would probably disappear completely. When it saw Yang Hongwu, it knew that it still had a chance. That was to recognize the human as its master. In this way, as long as the human was willing to accept it, it could still survive even if it lost most of its strength. This was its only chance of survival. Therefore, it condensed a contract in the void. This was the master contract. It turned into a ray of light and shot toward Yang Hongwu. Poison fire source knew how powerful it was. The human was weak. He was only in the saint realm. There was no way he could resist it. He would definitely recognize it as his master. But in the next moment, something unexpected happened. When the contract was about to enter between Yang Hongwu's eyebrows, it was blocked and dissipated in an instant. It was rejected. The human had rejected it. Chapter 1345. Why don't you take me as your master? You. How can you take a saint realm cultivator as your master? How? How is this possible? Poison Flame Source couldn't believe it. How could the Red Lotus of Fire be subdued by a Saint Realm cultivator? The Red Lotus of Fire was a legendary divine object. Even a Tai true god expert wouldn't be able to get the approval of the Red Lotus of Fire. However, a Saint Realm cultivator had done it. Master's strength is beyond your imagination. You'd better be devoured by me and become my energy. The red lotus increased its devouring power. Time flew by and poison flame source was quickly devoured by the red lotus of fire. After devouring the poison flame source, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had broken through the limit. He had entered the great saint realm. The red lotus had broken through from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. Although it was only a slight breakthrough, it had reached the 12th grade. The red lotus was strong enough to kill a late great emperor expert. If the other party's karma was strong enough, it could even kill an invincible great emperor. After devouring the god extinguishing heavenly fire, great void divine fire and poison flame source, the terrifying temperature of the flaming divine mountain disappeared and was replaced by a terrifying chill. The entire flaming divine mountain had undergone a drastic change. It had turned from a terrifying scorching heat into an ice mountain. This sudden change made by Yunjian, Gui Longping, and the others who were waiting outside dumbfounded. How is this possible? Lien Rinshan couldn't believe his eyes. The change is too great. Could it be that the divine fire has been taken by junior brother Yang? No, young martial uncle? Bai Yunjian originally wanted to say the words junior brother Yang, but he was glared at by Lien Rinshan, so he quickly changed his words. At this moment, he was also stunned. This was the Flaming God Mountain. This was a flaming god mountain that had not been extinguished for 10,000 years. But now, the flames of the Flaming God Mountain had suddenly disappeared. Not only that, but it had also turned into an iceberg. That's possible. Look, isn't that Yang Hongwu? Gui Longping suddenly pointed at two people who had appeared on the distant mountain peak. It's him. Bai Yunjian nodded in surprise. It's Yang, junior martial uncle. Haha, as I said, how could my disciple die so easily? Lien Rinshan was very happy and shouted loudly, Disciple, my good disciple, master is here. Yang Hongwu saw Bai Yunjian and the others from afar. When he heard the tall, skinny old man call him his disciple, Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly. This old man was really shameless. Yang, little brother, it's great that you're all right. Bai Yunjian really couldn't call him junior martial uncle in front of Yang Hongwu. At first, he called him junior brother. How could he not be depressed when he suddenly called him martial uncle? It would have been fine if he didn't call him martial uncle, but now that he was in front of Yang Hongwu, he really couldn't call him martial uncle. Brat, you're so rude. Call him martial uncle. Lien Rinshan was dissatisfied when he heard Bai Yunjian's words. He knocked him on the head. Good disciple, you're called Yang Hongwu, right? And disciple's wife is also very good. Not bad, Lien Rinshan said. I'm Bai Yunjian's martial ancestor. And this is my disciple, Gui Longping, Bai Yunjian's master. He's the sect master of the Sky Sword sect. You can call him senior brother. This senior, what senior? Before Yang Hongwu could finish his words, Lien Rinshan interrupted Yang Hongwu and said, Call me master. Good disciple, if you call me master, I'll prepare something good for you. It's a gift for you to become my disciple. As long as you call me master, I'll give you something good. Don't you want the divine fire seed? My Sky Sword sect has a divine fire seed. That divine fire seed is one of the gifts for you to become my disciple. Yang Hongwu originally didn't want to become Lien Rinshan's disciple. However, after thinking about it, he decided to become Lien Rinshan's disciple. It was just a title. Moreover, entering the Sky Sword sect would bring him a lot of benefit. With the help of the Sky Sword sect, his strength should be able to advance further. However, with Yang Hongwu's current Great Sage Realm cultivation, it was too difficult for him to break through and enter the Great Emperor Realm. It was probably impossible in this continent. If he wanted to break through and enter the Great Emperor Realm, he would have to go to the Central Continent. Or, he could directly refine the origin of this mortal continent. That way, Yang Hongwu's cultivation could also break through and enter the Great Emperor Realm. After all, young Hongwu was different from others. The energy he needed to cultivate was too huge. Now that he had just recovered to the Great Sage Realm, the energy he consumed was enough to create a few Tai True Divinity Realm experts. If he wanted to break through the shackles of the Great Sage Realm and enter the Great Emperor Realm, he didn't know how much energy he would need to consume. In this common people's continent, whether or not he could recover his cultivation base to the Emperor Realm was really an unknown. Of course, Yang Hongwu faintly felt that this mortal continent wasn't that simple. Now, Yang Hongwu also expressed his doubts about whether this mortal continent was a world within the Mortal Life Great Seal. After all, if it was a world within the Mortal Life Great Seal, then why would the ancient Dragon Gate appear here? Why would the Scroll of Fortune appear? And the Divine Talisman? This was too surprising. Although the Mortal Life Great Seal was a supreme treasure and incomparably powerful, it couldn't be more powerful and more precious than the Scroll of Fortune, the ancient Dragon Gate and the Divine Talisman. At most, it was comparable to the ancient Dragon Gate. How could treasures like the Scroll of Good Fortune and the ancient Dragon Gate enter the inner world of treasures that were comparable to them? Therefore, at this moment, Yang Hongwu became more and more confused. At that time, he had paid a huge price to enter the Mortal Life Great Seal's space. If this wasn't the Mortal Life Great Seal's space, then where was this place? Shaking his head, Yang Hongwu threw these thoughts aside and looked at the old man Lien Rinshan in front of him. This old man's strength wasn't weak. Although he wasn't an invincible great emperor, he was only a step away from it. He could be said to be a half-step invincible great emperor. Just a little bit more and he could cross this threshold. Thinking of this, Yang Hongwu suddenly had an idea. It's okay if I don't want to be his disciple. Maybe it's not bad to be an old ancestor? Thinking of this, Yang Hongwu raised his head and looked at Lien Rinshan. I'm afraid it's not good for me to be your disciple. Why don't you be my disciple and I'll teach you how to break through to the invincible Great Emperor Realm? Yang Hongwu could see clearly that Lien Rinshan's strength and realm had actually reached the pinnacle. He was just a step away from breaking through the shackles and becoming an invincible Great Emperor. However, if there wasn't any fortuitous encounter, Lien Rinshan didn't know how long it would take for him to break through the paper window. However, if Yang Hongwu were to guide him, Lien Rinshan would be able to break through in a few breaths. Who was Yang Hongwu? Chapter 1346. What was invincible? As soon as these words came out, even Rinshan thought that he had heard wrongly. Bai Yunjian thought that Yang Hongwu was crazy or possessed. Otherwise, how could he say such words? Hey, little brother Yang, your cultivation has broken through to the Great Sage Realm. Seeing that Yang Hongwu's cultivation had broken through to the Great Sage Realm, Bai Yunjian was also surprised. He didn't notice it before. Now, he realized that Yang Hongwu's cultivation had reached the Great Sage Realm. Huadanzi was also shocked. One should know that Yang Hongwu's cultivation was only at the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm before. Now, his cultivation had reached the Great Sage Realm in such a short time. Such a cultivation speed was too fast and too amazing. Quickly apologized to Senior Lien. Huadanzi was afraid that Lien Rinshan would be angry, so he hurriedly said. Lien Rinshan's strength was much stronger than theirs. Although they were all at the peak of the Great Emperor Realm, Lien Rinshan's true strength was much stronger than theirs. Lien Rinshan's strength had reached the peak of the Great Emperor Realm many years ago. Now, after so many years, he had touched the edge of the invincible Great Emperor Realm. It doesn't matter. Lien Rinshan was not angry. Instead, he smiled and said, Little guy, tell me, how can you help me break through to the invincible Great Emperor Realm? If you can't, how about you worship me as your master? Lien Rinshan knew that geniuses, especially those unparalleled heaven's prides, had their own pride and arrogance. If they didn't have arrogance, then they wouldn't be unparalleled heaven's prides. He was the same when he was young. Therefore, he was not angry when he heard Yang Hongwu's words. Instead, he was very happy. It was as if he saw his younger self. Seeing that Lien Rinshan wasn't angry, Bai Yunjian and Huadanzi heaved a sigh of relief. You're now at the peak of the Great Emperor realm, half a step away from the invincible Great Emperor realm. You're only one step away from breaking through the shackles of the invincible Great Emperor realm. If you can break through the window paper, you'll be able to enter the invincible Great Emperor realm, right? Yang Hongwu said. That's right, it's not a big deal that you know this. I've already reached the peak of the undefeatable martial monarch realm a long time ago. Everyone knows this, so it's not strange that you know this. Lien Rinshan nodded. This was something that almost everyone knew. It was not strange that Yang Hongwu knew about it. Moreover, in this mortal continent, there were many experts like him who were at the edge of the invincible Great Emperor realm. Although they were only one step away from breaking through the shackles, the difference was like heaven and earth. Countless experts were stuck at this hurdle, unable to move an inch forward. You have to think carefully. If I help you break through the shackles and become an invincible Great Emperor realm, you have to worship me as your master. Do you have any other choice? Yang Hongwu said. Yes, if you can help me break through to the invincible Great Emperor realm, I will worship you as my master. Of course, if you can't, then you have to worship me as your master and become my disciple. Lien Rinshan said. For him, there was no loss at all. No matter what, he had profited. If Yang Hongwu failed, he would become his disciple. Having such a heaven-defying and outstanding disciple was something that everyone dreamed of. If Yang Hongwu really helped him break through the shackles and become an invincible Great Emperor realm, then he would have profited. He had been stuck at this realm for many years. If he did not break through, his lifespan would not last for long. If not, he would not have thought of snatching a disciple from his own disciple, Gue Longping. If he could make a breakthrough, not to mention worshipping him as a master, he could even acknowledge his father, grandfather, or ancestors. It was not that he had no backbone, but for a warrior, especially a warrior who had reached the end of his lifespan and was stuck at the edge of the invincible Great Emperor realm for countless years, there was nothing more important than making a breakthrough in his cultivation. Moreover, it was just worshipping him as a master. All right, in that case, I will help you break through and become an invincible Great Emperor. Yang Hongwu looked at him and smiled. Do you know why you haven't entered the invincible Great Emperor realm? In fact, your cultivation and realm are already enough. You just need a little bit more. As long as you comprehend that little bit, you can break through the bottleneck and become a butterfly. What is it? Lien Rinshan deeply agreed with Yang Hongwu's words. He also felt that he was just a little bit away from breaking through, but there was no way to cross over. Let me ask you, what is an invincible Great Emperor realm? Yang Hongwu asked. What is an invincible Great Emperor realm? Lien Rinshan was stunned. Bai Yunjian and the others were also stunned. It was fine for Bai Yunjian because his cultivation had not reached that level. However, it was different for Gue Longping and Huadanzi. Their cultivation was also at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. They were not far away from the invincible Great Emperor realm. Although they were far behind Lien Rinshan, it was possible for them to catch up with him if they had the opportunity. Yang Hongwu's question made them a little confused. After all, they had never thought of this question. Invincible Great Emperor realm? What was an invincible Great Emperor realm? An invincible Great Emperor is an existence that is invincible among the Great Emperors. It is an existence that is invincible below the Tai True God realm. Lien Rinshan and the others did not speak. They were thinking, but Bai Yunjian said, among the Great Emperors, there is no one who can defeat him. He is an invincible Great Emperor. Is that really invincible? Yang Hongwu asked with a smile. Bai Yunjian fell into deep thought after being asked by Yang Hongwu. Then, what is invincible? Yang Hongwu asked again. What is invincible? What is invincible? What exactly is invincible? Suddenly, Lien Rinshan and the others asked one after another. They seemed a little crazy because they really did not understand what was invincible. Is invincible a kind of law? Gui Longping asked. Once you comprehend the invincible law, you can become an invincible great emperor. Huodanzi said. No, that's not right. That's not right. Lien Rinshan suddenly understood something, but he could not understand it completely. His aura changed and his aura surged, but he still did not break through. Not yet. Yang Hongwu smiled. Just one more step. All right, let me fulfill your wish. Yang Hongwu said, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Let me tell you, invincible is a kind of belief, a kind of self-belief. If your belief and spirit are not defeated, you are invincible. Chapter 1347. Take in a disciple, invincible. Invincible. Haha, I understand now. So that's how it is. Suddenly, Lien Rinshan burst into laughter. His voice pierced through the sky. His imposing aura suddenly erupted. Just like Yang Hongwu, a terrifying imposing aura erupted from him. This imposing aura was invincible. His cultivation broke through the shackles in an instant. After many years, he finally broke through the bottleneck and entered the invincible Great Emperor realm. A cloud condensed in the sky. This was the tribulation cloud. As long as Lien Rinshan passed this tribulation, he would become a true invincible Great Emperor. Facing this tribulation, Lien Rinshan wasn't afraid. Instead, he was elated. After waiting for so many years, this day had finally come. Huodanzi and the others were envious of Lien Rinshan. Although they had received guidance from Yang Hongwu like Lien Rinshan, they hadn't truly comprehended the invincible Great Emperor realm. Therefore, they couldn't break through the shackles. However, although they hadn't comprehended the invincible Great Emperor realm, they had gained a lot of benefits. Their cultivation had improved. They knew that they had the chance to break through to the invincible Great Emperor realm. Therefore, they were very grateful to Yang Hongwu. Especially by Yunjian, he was very shocked. He knew that Yang Hongwu was talented, but he didn't expect Yang Hongwu to comprehend the invincible Great Emperor realm. He thought that Yang Hongwu was just joking, but he really did it. He really helped Lien Rinshan break through the shackles and enter the invincible Great Emperor realm. At this moment, a lightning tribulation descended. Lien Rinshan's strength wasn't bad. Although the lightning tribulation was strong, his accumulation had already reached the limit. The lightning tribulation wasn't much of a threat to him. Therefore, Lien Rinshan passing this heavenly tribulation was a matter of course. He had finally broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm. Old man, now that you've broken through, shouldn't you fulfill your promise? Yang Hongwu said. No. Bai Yunjian said. Brother Yang, you can't. He's our Sky Sword Sect's old ancestor. Gui Longping wasn't willing. Although Yang Hongwu had given them guidance, his cultivation was only in the Great Saint realm. Lien Rinshan was his master. If Lien Rinshan was Yang Hongwu's old ancestor, wouldn't they his old ancestor? How could he, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword Sect, call a junior at the Great Sage stage his grandmaster? Not to mention that Yang Hongwu was only at the Great Sage realm. Even if he was at the Great Emperor realm, he would still find it unbearable. What? Are you going back on your word? Yang Hongwu said indifferently with a trace of contempt in his tone. Master. To everyone's surprise, Lien Rinshan immediately knelt down in front of Yang Hongwu. He was sincerely convinced by Yang Hongwu. Although Yang Hongwu's cultivation was only in the Great Saint realm, Lien Rinshan knew that Yang Hongwu's combat strength was absolutely terrifying. Even if he had broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm, he wasn't confident that he could defeat Yang Hongwu. Previously, Yang Hongwu's invincible stance was a kind of invincible aura. Although he had broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm, he knew that there was a big gap between his invincible Great Emperor realm and Yang Hongwu's invincible stance. Good. You're a man of your word. I'll accept you as my disciple. Yang Hongwu smiled and took out an item. It was an elixir pill. This elixir pill is my gift to you. Lien Rinshan didn't pay much attention to Yang Hongwu's elixir pill. After all, no matter how powerful Yang Hongwu was, he was only in the Great Saint realm. What kind of elixir pill could he have? However, he was shocked when he felt the aura of the elixir pill. He didn't expect the elixir pill to be so precious. It was a 100% elixir pill. This elixir pill was enough to stabilize his cultivation. Without this elixir pill, he would need at least 10 years to stabilize his cultivation. However, this elixir pill could stabilize his cultivation in a few days. It would also give him some unexpected benefits. Huadanzi and Gui Longping were stunned when they saw the elixir pill. As an alchemist, how could Huadanzi not know the wonders of this elixir pill? This was an emperor elixir, a 100% elixir pill. This kind of elixir had the mysterious power of the law. If they consumed it, they would have a great chance to break through the bottleneck and enter the invincible Great Emperor realm. If it was given to Bai Yunjian, it wouldn't be of much use. However, Huadanzi and Gui Longping were different. Their cultivation was at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. They were only one step away from entering the invincible Great Emperor realm. Moreover, Yang Hongwu had explained some of the principles of invincibility to them. If they had such an elixir pill, their chances of breaking through to the invincible Great Emperor realm would be more than 50%. How could they not be tempted? Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. At this time, Lien Rinshan was willing to call Yang Hongwu Master. He knew that Yang Hongwu's invincible aura meant that he must have been an invincible Great Emperor in the past. Moreover, he was definitely much stronger than an ordinary invincible Great Emperor. He might even be a true god, the reincarnation of an unparalleled Almighty. Otherwise, how could a great Saint Realm warrior be so monstrous and heaven-defying? How could he have such a terrifying aura? On this continent, there had been many experts who had reincarnated and recultivated. These experts who had reincarnated and recultivated were all monstrous talents. On this continent, such monstrous geniuses would definitely be fought over by countless sections. This was because they were destined to break through the shackles. If an invincible Great Emperor reincarnated, he would definitely become an invincible Great Emperor again. He might even have a chance to break through to a higher level. If it was an expert of the true God realm who had reincarnated in the divine domain, then he would definitely become an expert of the true God realm after reincarnating. Of course, there was also the possibility of death. However, such reincarnated experts were unlikely to die. Before they grew up, it was rare for their secrets to be exposed. Chapter 1348. Scrambling to acknowledge a master. Why aren't you greeting your grandmaster? Lien Rinshan glared at Gui Longping and the others when he saw that they didn't respond. Grandmaster. Gui Longping was helpless. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Their master had already spoken. If they didn't greet him, he would probably be angry. Alright, don't make things difficult for them. Yang Hongwu looked at Bai Yunjian and said, Senior brother Bai, it's all thanks to you this time. If it wasn't for you, I don't know how long it would take for me to break through to the Great Saint Realm. Grandmaster, please don't call me Senior brother Bai. Bai Yunjian smiled bitterly and shook his head. Grandmaster, just call me Yunjian, Little Bai or Little Jian. Hearing Yang Hongwu's words and seeing the looks in Gui Longping and Lien Rinshan's eyes, his heart trembled. If Yang Hongwu continued to call him that, his master and grandmaster might even have the thought of tearing him apart. Therefore, he absolutely couldn't agree to Yang Hongwu calling him senior brother. Alright, don't blame Brother Bai. In fact, you don't have to call me Grandmaster or Master like that. Just call me by my name. Your cultivation is higher than mine now. I'm only in the Great Saint realm. Yang Hongwu smiled and said, No, how can that be? Etiquette can't be abandoned. Lien Rinshan shook his head and said, If we don't even have the etiquette of respecting our master, how improper would that be? That's right. Etiquette can't be abandoned. Gui Longping nodded. Since it had become a fact, it couldn't be changed. Moreover, Lien Rinshan must have his reasons for doing so. How could it be so simple for him to become the sect master of the Sky Sword sect? Furthermore, Yang Hongwu had casually taken out such a precious pill, which made him extremely envious. If he had such a pill, he would have a 50% chance of breaking through to the invincible martial monarch realm within 10 years, or even more. In this way, Yang Hongwu would become their grandmaster. If Yang Hongwu entered the Sky Sword sect and didn't become a grandmaster, how could they have the face to ask a junior for a pill? Since Yang Hongwu became Lien Rinshan's master, he was their grandmaster. It was reasonable for a disciple to ask for benefits from their grandmaster. They weren't that stupid. It was just a title. Compared to the actual benefits, what was it worth? It was an opportunity to break through to the Great Saint realm? What was in Great Emperor realm? It was an existence that stood at the peak of the common people's continent. How many great emperors were there in this continent? In the common people's continent, other than the central continent, the other 4 continents didn't have many great emperors. Their continent was one of the 4 continents other than the central continent. Moreover, it was the place with the thinnest spiritual qi. The few major powers didn't have a single great emperor realm expert. Now that their master Lien Rinshan had broken through and became an invincible great emperor, it meant that their Sky Sword sect had become the #1 power in this continent. If there were a few more invincible great emperors, then the Sky Sword sect could even become the #1 power in the common people's continent. They could see that Yang Hongwu was a monstrous existence. Just like what Bai Yunjian said, he was a peerless genius, a true peerless genius. Moreover, there was a 99% chance that Yang Hongwu was the reincarnation of a peerless expert, a true God realm expert. As for what level of true God expert he was, they didn't know. It wouldn't be a loss to have such a peerless expert as their old ancestor. They guessed that Yang Hongwu's original cultivation was probably much stronger than their old ancestor. A true God, tsk. Even if his cultivation hadn't recovered, it was still shocking. As long as they could get some pointers from him, they would benefit immensely. Lien Rinshan, because of Yang Hongwu's pointers, just a few words, he broke through the shackles, the bottleneck that had been stuck for many years, and broke through to the invincible Great Emperor realm in one fell swoop. To be able to cultivate to their level, which one of them was a fool. They were now sure that the great change in the flaming divine mountain was related to him. The sudden disappearance of the divine fire was probably because Yang Hongwu had taken it. Huadanzi wasn't a fool when he saw Gui Longping and the others behaving this way. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Senior, please accept me as your disciple." Gui Longping glared at him and said, "You, old Hua, you're wrong. If you acknowledge my old ancestor as your master, wouldn't I be 1 generation lower than you for no reason?" One had to know that he and Huadanzi were of the same generation. The two of them were very good friends who had gone through life and death together. If Huadanzi acknowledged Yang Hongwu as his master, wouldn't he become his martial uncle? Therefore, when he heard Huadanzi's words, Gui Longping glared at him. "That's nothing. I want to acknowledge Yang Senior as my master because I want to learn his alchemy skills. Senior Yang has already reached the pinnacle of alchemy." Huadanzi didn't care when he saw that Gui Longping was angry. Instead, he looked at Yang Hongwu and said, "Senior, please accept me as your disciple and teach me alchemy skills." Yang Hongwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw this. These guys really made him feel helpless. They were already so old, but they still played such trick. Get up, all of you, get up, Yang Hongwu said. I've said it before. My cultivation base is only at the Great Saint realm. All of you, on the other hand, are great emperors. If news of you taking me as your master spreads out, you'll be humiliated and become a laughing stock. Who dares? Lien Rinshan's eyes shot out a terrifying cold light. I'll kill whoever dares to laugh at me. Now that Lien Rinshan was an invincible great emperor realm expert, no one on this continent dared to laugh at him. If he knew about this, they would have to face his wrath. Indeed, not many people could withstand the wrath of an invincible great emperor. Even first-rate sects couldn't withstand it. No one would be stupid enough to offend an invincible great emperor over such a small matter. That's right, senior. Please accept me, Huadanzi said. If you don't agree, I won't get up. Suddenly, Yang Hongwu's face changed. The flaming sacred mountain had already turned into an iceberg. At this moment, the iceberg started to sway and was about to collapse. Not good. The flaming sacred mountain is about to collapse. We have to leave quickly. Yang Hongwu hugged Bai Yiran and instantly moved away. Originally, he had already broken through to the Great Saint realm and his combat strength had increased greatly. He was prepared to try to obtain the source of all evil. However, he didn't expect that the flaming sacred mountain would change again. More importantly, Yang Hongwu could no longer sense the existence of the source of all evil. Chapter 1349. The ancient mountain's demonic might. Everyone sensed the danger and fled. The instant they left the blazing godly mountain, the entire blazing godly mountain crumbled. The entire space was annihilated. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned and rejoiced. If they were a step later, they would have been heavily injured and might have even been sucked into the spatial turbulence. This was no laughing matter. Terrifying. What's going on? Murmured Bai Yunjian. Yeah, the blazing sacred mountain has collapsed. This space has also collapsed. From now on, the blazing sacred mountain will no longer exist. Huadanzi and the others guessed that this was because the divine fire had been taken away. The reason why the blazing sacred mountain existed was because of the divine fire. Now that the divine fire was gone, it was normal for this space to collapse. Master, follow me back to the Skysword sect. Lien Rinshan looked at Yang Hongwu and said, Senior Yang, please accept me as your disciple. Huadanzi was still determined to become Yang Hongwu's disciple. At this moment, Yang Hongwu couldn't care less about this. He said, I still have things to do. Just now, when the void collapsed, I lost something and it escaped into the void. I don't know where it went. I have to find that thing. That thing is very important to me. It's the key for me to break through to the Emperor realm. In truth, the source of all evil curses wasn't that important to Yang Hongwu. However, Huadanzi and the others were pestering Yang Hongwu. Thus, he could only say this to get rid of their entanglement. Master, what's that thing? We can find it for you. My Skysword sect is spread all over this continent. I can mobilize the strength of the entire Skysword sect to find that treasure for you. Lien Rinshan hastily said after hearing Yang Hongwu's words. That's right, Master Ancestor. Right now, Master Ancestor needs to raise his cultivation base. There are countless resources in the Heaven's Sword sect that can be provided to Master Ancestor. There's also a godly flame. I'm sure it'll be of great help to Master Ancestor. Gui Longping echoed. He also wanted to get some benefits from Yang Hongwu. He also wanted to become an invincible great emperor. However, if he relied on himself to cultivate, it would take him thousands of years or even longer. If he could get Yang Hongwu's help and guidance, then he should be able to save a lot of time. More importantly, Yang Hongwu was so heaven-defying. He was definitely an excellent teacher. With his guidance, the strength of the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect would definitely increase greatly. This was because he knew that Yang Hongwu's cultivation base was only at the initial stage of the Saint Realm. However, his cultivation base had made a huge breakthrough in such a short period of time. He seemed to have no bottlenecks in his cultivation. This was related to his aptitude but also to his perception and experience. If such a person could give some guidance to some disciples, it would definitely be a great opportunity for the disciples of the Heaven's Sword sect. If Master is really unwilling, then this disciple will go with Master to find that treasure. Lien Rinshan said. Senior Lien is right. I'm also willing to go with Master. Huadanzi also said. Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly. In any case, each of them was a super expert. How could they be so shameless? All right, I'll go to the Heaven's Sword sect first. Yang Hongwu thought for a while. Going to the Heaven's Sword sect wasn't without benefits. He needed to break through to the Great Emperor realm now. He needed to consume a huge amount of energy. It was too difficult for him to obtain so much energy with his current strength. Going to the Heaven's Sword sect wasn't a bad choice. At least as a powerful sect, it still had a foundation. It should be much stronger than the Fire God dynasty. Moreover, there was a divine fire in the Heaven's Sword sect. If this divine fire was devoured by the fiery lotus, it might be able to upgrade the red lotus of fire to the 13th grade. Therefore, it was worth a trip to the Heaven's Sword sect. Now, he was pressed for time. The fire god that was sealed in the Fire God dynasty was very powerful. He was constantly struggling to break the seal. Once that guy broke the seal, he would be in trouble. Yang Hongwu faintly had a bad premonition. It was related to the cursed source of all evil. This cursed source of all evil would probably have a great impact on him. It made him feel a little uneasy. This was definitely a bad omen. Something was definitely going to happen. This kind of premonition was very sensitive. Yang Hongwu didn't know how many times he had experienced it. As for what kind of danger it was, Yang Hongwu didn't know. That's great. Gui Longping and the others were overjoyed. Only Huadanzi looked helpless. He was the great consecrator of the Fire God dynasty. He couldn't possibly follow Yang Hongwu to the Heaven's Sword sect, right? Moreover, the Fire God dynasty was still in a crisis. Although Zhong Wang's rebellion had been repelled, Zhong Wang was still alive. Second brother Chu, third brother Lin and the others were still alive. They were very powerful. If they launched another attack on the Fire God dynasty, Song Lingwu wouldn't be able to withstand it without him protecting the Fire God dynasty. Therefore, he couldn't leave the Fire God dynasty for too long. Master. Huadanzi looked at Yang Hongwu with a bitter face. His expression gave everyone goosebumps. You're a peak Great Emperor realm expert, the great consecrator of the Fire God dynasty, the strongest expert. How could you act like this? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed? Don't, great consecrator. It's better if you don't call me master. How about this? I have some pill recipes and some knowledge of alchemy here. I'll give them to you. Yang Hongwu was getting impatient, but he had no other choice. These guys really made him speechless. Moreover, he owed Huadanzi a favor when he was in the Fire God dynasty. If it wasn't for Huadanzi, he wouldn't have broken through so quickly and wouldn't have obtained the red karmic fire lotus. Thank you, Master. Don't call me Master. How could I deserve it? Yang Hongwu was really helpless. He had never seen such a situation. Some old guys forced a great Emperor realm expert to become a disciple of a great Saint realm expert. All right. Master Yang, I'll remember it. Thank you, Master Yang. Huadanzi was overjoyed at the moment. He only took a glance and realized that the things that Yang Hongwu gave him were definitely very precious. Those few pill recipes were all extraordinary pills. They were ancient pill recipes that had been lost for a long time. The pill concoction method was even more extraordinary as it was an ancient technique. After parting ways with Huadanzi, Yang Hongwu, Bai Yunjian and the others headed towards the Sky Sword sect. At this moment, in an ancient mountain that was shrouded by evil energy, dense demonic chi filled the air. The entire ancient mountain was filled with a terrifying demonic aura. A ray of light instantly rushed into the ancient mountain. Chapter 1350. Sword Chi Riot. After the origin of all evil and curses entered the demon mountain, a monstrous devil chi burst out. This monstrous devil chi shocked the entire continent. Each and every one of the old antiques were frightened by this monstrous devil chi. What a terrifying devil chi! Could it be that the ancient devil has awakened? At this moment, Bai Yunjian, Yang Hongwu and the rest were still on their way. When they felt this monstrous devil chi, their faces changed. The sky of the common people's continent is about to change. With the birth of this devil, I'm afraid there will be a bloody storm in the common people's continent. Lien Rinshan murmured. Let's go. Let's hurry back to the sect. Gui Longping said. Half a day later, the group arrived at the Sky Sword sect. The mountain where the Sky Sword sect was located was like a gigantic sword. This spiritual mountain was called the Sky Sword Peak, and the Sky Sword sect was located at the peak of this mountain. How is it, young ancestor? How is our Sky Sword sect? This is the Heavenly Sword Peak. Rumor has it that the Heavenly Sword Peak was formed by a divine sword that descended from the heavens. Back then, the founder of my Heavenly Sword sect comprehended the Tao of the sword here and founded the Heavenly Sword sect, said Gui Longping. What a dense sword chi here! Yang Hongwu looked at the mountain and was shocked. The sword chi here was too shocking. Yang Hongwu could faintly feel that this mountain contained a supreme sword Tao law. However, this supreme sword Tao law wasn't something that ordinary people could comprehend. Of course, our Heavenly Sword sect has a sword tomb. Inside the sword tomb there are countless ancient swords. The dense sword chi comes from the sword tomb. Anyone who cultivates the sword will be able to sense the sword chi in the sword tomb. If they are fated, they can obtain the recognition of the treasured swords in the sword tomb and obtain a supreme treasured sword. Gui Longping said, Young ancestor, you can enter the sword tomb and obtain a treasured sword that belongs to you. Yang Hongwu shook his head and said, No need. I don't specialize in the sword Tao. Therefore, there is no need for me to seek a treasured sword. Yang Hongwu practiced saber techniques and, of course, spear technique. His saber art was his main art, and his spear art was his secondary art. In addition, his fists and kicks were also very shocking. Sect Master, Grand Master. Seeing that Gui Longping and the others had returned, the guarding disciple said happily. Gui Longping patted the disciple's shoulder and said, Well, not bad. Little Lin, you have made a big breakthrough again. Work hard and strive to advance to the great saint realm in a year. Many thanks, Sect Master. I will definitely work hard. The disciple who was guarding the mountain was incomparably emotional as he said loudly, Grandmaster, Grandmaster, you're back. That's great. Something's happened. Just then, a disciple rushed over hurriedly. When he saw Gui Longping and Lien Rinshan, he was overjoyed. What is it? Why are you in such a hurry? Gui Longping's face sank as he looked at the person who had come. The person who had come was Yin Debiao, a true disciple of the Sky Sword sect. He was extremely talented. Although he couldn't be compared to Bai Yunjian, he could be considered as one of the top 5 disciples in the Sky Sword sect. Yin Debiao had always been very calm, but this time, he was in such a hurry that he was a little dissatisfied. For a martial artist, calmness was the most important thing. Those who weren't calm enough, were impatient, and couldn't remain calm in the face of danger would often die quickly. Therefore, for this kind of reckless disciple, no matter how outstanding his talent was, it was generally very difficult for him to grow. Therefore, ever since Gui Longping became the sect master, he had always asked his disciples to remain calm in the face of trouble. No matter what happened, they must remain calm and not be impatient. Sect master, it's like this. Something happened to the sword tomb. Een de Biao said. Something happened to the sword tomb? Hearing this, Gui Longping couldn't remain calm. The sword tomb was one of the most important places in the Sky Sword sect. If something happened to the sword tomb, wouldn't it be terrible? Yes, sect master. All the elders are helpless. Een de Biao said. When did this happen? Gui Longping asked. What exactly happened? What are you still talking about? Let's go to the sword tomb. Lien Rinshan said. After saying that, Lien Rinshan rushed towards the Sky Sword Peak with Yang Hongwu and the others behind him. Soon, they arrived at the sword tomb of the Sky Sword sect. Sect Master, Elder Lien. Seeing Gui Longping and the others arrive, the group of elders stood out. What the hell is going on? As soon as the voice fell, a terrifying sword chi burst out from the sword tomb. Gui Longping was shocked. Be careful. The few of them hurriedly dodged, barely dodging the sword chi. They only saw that the sword chi had instantly pierced through a stone mountain. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This sword chi was so terrifying. If they didn't dodge it, their stomachs would have been sliced open. Sect Master, I don't know what happened. Originally, I was going to the sword tomb to retrieve the sword. However, I didn't expect to encounter a sword chi riot as soon as I entered the sword tomb. The sword chi in the sword tomb went berserk and a few of my junior brothers died in the sword chi riot. As for me, I managed to escape from the sword tomb in time to save my life. If I had been a step later, I'm afraid I would have died like my junior brothers. Een de Biao said. Thinking of this, his heart still palpitated. He almost died in the sword tomb. Sword tomb going berserk? How is that possible? Lien Rinshan looked at the sword tomb and frowned. Do you know the reason for the sword chi riot? The group of elders shook their heads. No, there's no news. Moreover, we have no way to enter the sword tomb. The sword chi is too terrifying. Once you step into the sword tomb, your body will be pierced by the sword chi and you will die without a burial place. Therefore, none of us can enter the sword tomb, let alone find out the reason for the sword chi riot. An elder said. Can I go in and take a look? At this time, Yang Hongwu said. When the group of elders heard Yang Hongwu's words, they noticed that there were two strangers beside Gui Longping. The man and woman were extremely good-looking. Sect leader, is this your new disciple? An elder asked. They are my master. Lien Rinshan said at this time. Elder Lien's master? Some of the elders were surprised when they heard Lien Rinshan's words. One of them said, Lien Rinshan, didn't your master pass away a long time ago? I just became his disciple. Why can't I? Lien Rinshan looked at the elder. This elder was called Luo Linkai and was Lien Rinshan's opponent. However, Luo Linkai's strength was weaker than Lien Rinshan's. All along, the two of them had been fighting endlessly. However, most of the time, Lien Rinshan had the upper hand. Chapter 1351. Respected elder, old man, show some respect. This is my master. Lien Rinshan's terrifying aura burst out and shrouded Luo Linkai. Boom. This powerful aura pushed Luo Linkai back a few steps. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Lien Rinshan in shock. He couldn't believe it and shouted, How is this possible? You! Lien Rinshan, how are you so strong? Have you broken through to the invincible Emperor realm? Humph! Lien Rinshan snorted coldly. That's right, I've already broken through. Not long ago, I broke through under the guidance of my master. Luo Linkai, you dare to disrespect my master. If it weren't for our old friendship, I would have killed you. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Elder Lien Rinshan had actually broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm under the guidance of that young man. This was simply too shocking. Could that young man be an old antique? Did he deliberately restrain his aura and conceal his cultivation base? The Great Sage Realm aura that he exposed was just a cover for the others? To be able to make Elder Lien Rinshan so respectful and help him break through to the invincible Emperor realm, Could that young man be a half-step true God realm expert? If that was the case, then their Sky Sword sect had made a huge profit. A half-step true God realm expert. In the Tsangshan continent, other than the central continent, the other 4 continents didn't have a half-step true God realm expert. In their continent, there wasn't even an invincible Great Emperor realm expert. Now, Elder Lien Rinshan had broken through the shackles and became an invincible Great Emperor. This meant that the Sky Sword sect had become the strongest sect in this continent. Big profit. This time, the Sky Sword sect had really made a huge profit. Not only did they have an invincible Emperor realm expert, but they also had a half-step true God realm expert. These old-timers were all delighted. To them, this wasn't the greatest benefit. The greatest benefit was that with a half-step true God expert, they would be able to take him as their master. Wouldn't they be able to seek guidance from him? They were old now, and their lifespan would not last much longer. If they could obtain the guidance of a half-step true God, they would be able to break through their shackles and make a breakthrough in their cultivation. That would be the real benefit. It was something they yearned for day and night. Who would want to die? Senior, no, Uncle Master, I was wrong just now. Please forgive me. Was Luo Linkai a fool? No, of course he was not a fool. On the contrary, he was much smarter than others. Otherwise, he would not have cultivated to such a level and achieved his current status. Therefore, when he found out that Yang Hongwu was helping Lien Rinshan break through to the invincible Emperor realm, and that he was most likely a half-step true God realm expert, he immediately changed his attitude. Shameless! Lien Rinshan was disgusted by Luo Linkai's behavior. The reason why he and Luo Linkai were rivals was because he could not bear to see Luo Linkai's face. Yang Hongwu was also surprised. He did not expect this old man to be so shameless. He was just mocking him a moment ago, and now he was flattering him like a dog. It made him speechless. This was the first time he had seen such a shameless person. Uncle Master! The others were not fools either. One by one, they began to call out, Uncle Master! Uncle Master! Yang Hongwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was speechless at the sight of these old-timers kneeling before him, even though they were all old-timers. Cough cough, get up. All of you, get up. Yang Hongwu said helplessly. This was the first time he had encountered such a weird situation. Did the Sky Sword sect have such a tradition? However, he had to admit that this method was effective. As the saying goes, one does not slap a smiling face. These guys had just met and they had already acknowledged their old ancestor. Even if Yang Hongwu did not want to deal with them, he could not bear to do so. It was absolutely impossible for such a thing to happen in other sections. Especially for those powerhouses, some geniuses, and those old antique. Their status was high and lofty. How could they bow down to a seemingly young expert whose cultivation was merely at the great sage realm? Yang Hongwu knew that such a sect could rise easily. Of course, it was difficult for such a sect to produce a peerless genius or a super expert. No peerless evildoer or peerless powerhouse would have such a mentality. However, if every martial artist in a sect had such an attitude, then the sect would be able to develop easily. Moreover, the inheritance would definitely last for a long time. The important thing now is to deal with the sword tomb. As for Master's matter, let's talk about it after this matter is settled. Lien Rinshan said. Master is right. As for Grandmaster's matter, let's wait until the matter of the sword tomb is settled. Once the matter of the sword tomb is settled, I will hold a grand ceremony to make Grandmaster a revered elder of my Sky Sword sect, Gui Longping said loudly. Lien Rinshan was very satisfied with these words. However, the others were very surprised. A revered elder was of very high status. If he became a revered elder, he would be able to mobilize all the forces of the Sky Sword sect and have supreme authority. His status was incomparably respected, just like an emperor in the secular world. Yang Hongwu was also shocked. He did not expect that Gui Longping would be given such a high status by a stranger like him. This was really too shocking. The status of a revered elder was above the elders' assembly and the sect master. This sect master, I can't agree to this matter. The title, revered elder, doesn't suit me. I'm just an outsider. If I become a revered elder of the Sky Sword sect, what will the other disciples think? Besides, the other elders won't agree. I'm not a member of the Sky Sword sect, and I haven't made any contributions to the Sky Sword sect. Therefore, I won't agree to this position. Although Yang Hongwu did not know what Gui Longping was thinking and what he was planning, he knew that no matter what, Yang Hongwu would not become a revered elder of the Sky Sword sect. Moreover, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. As the sect master, Gui Longping had a high status. How could he let an unfamiliar outsider become a revered elder of the Sky Sword sect? It would be strange if there wasn't a conspiracy behind this. Does old ancestor look down on our Sky Sword sect? Gui Longping asked. Master. Lien Rinshan was also disappointed. This matter, let's think about it at length. Luo Lin spoke at this time. After all, Martial Uncle doesn't know our Sky Sword sect well. Once he understands our Sky Sword sect, he will definitely agree to become a revered elder of our Sky Sword sect. Chapter 1352. Sword Talisman. I want to enter the Sword Catacomb. How about it? Yang Hongwu looked at the crowd and said, No, master. The Sword Tomb is filled with dangers right now. The Sword Qi is chaotic. Even if an invincible emperor were to enter the Sword Tomb, he would definitely die. It's way too dangerous. Lien Rinshan shook his head, his voice revealing a trace of fear. After all, he had just broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm. He did not expect such a thing to happen in the Sky Sword sect. Yang Hongwu said, Since I've brought it up, I'm confident. Although the Sword Qi is overbearing, it can't hurt me. To Yang Hongwu, this was an excellent opportunity to refine his body. Although Yang Hongwu was not a swordsman, he had a certain understanding of swordsmanship. Moreover, Yang Hongwu had once obtained a secret body refining technique called the Immortal Sword Body. Although the Immortal Sword Body was not as good as the Immortal Dragon Body that he had cultivated, it was just right for the current situation. The Immortal Sword Body used Sword Qi to refine the body to the point of using the body as a sword. However, the Immortal Sword Body was not something an ordinary person could cultivate. First, one must have a strong will, a strong body, and a certain understanding of Sword Dao. If one lacked any of the three, it was almost impossible to cultivate the Immortal Sword Body. Seeing Yang Hongwu's confidence, Gui Longping and the others looked at each other, then said to Yang Hongwu, Master Ancestor, you have to think carefully. The Sword Tomb is filled with chaotic sword qi. It's very dangerous. Even an invincible great emperor will die if he enters. If he can't withstand it, his body will be penetrated by the sword qi. Unless he has the legendary sword body, he won't be able to survive. Although I don't have a sword body, the sword qi can't hurt me. As Yang Hongwu spoke, a beam of light enveloped him as a palace appeared above his head. This was the heavenly palace of destruction. Of course, Bai Yunjian recognized this treasure. He had seen with his own eyes how Yang Hongwu had used this palace to block a powerful attack. Therefore, he knew how strong this palace was. However, although the palace was strong and had a shocking defense, it might not be able to withstand the endless sword qi in the sword tomb. A real treasure? Seeing Yang Hongwu take out this item, Lien Rinshan, as an invincible great emperor, naturally felt the power of this treasure. This aura was definitely stronger than an emperor weapon. That's right. This is my Destruction Heaven Palace. It's a supreme treasure. With amazing defense. Although I can't say I can come and go freely, I should be able to protect myself. Yang Hongwu said confidently. All right, Master Ancestor. Although Lien Rinshan was God Emperor God. Bai Yunjian, on the other hand, was somewhat worried. However, among the people present, he was the lowest in seniority. No matter how outstanding his talent was, he had no right to speak. Thus, he remained silent. Yang Hongwu pulled Bai Yiran up and entered the sword tomb in a flash. Before Gui Longping and the others could react, Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran had entered the sword tomb. Lien Rinshan and the others were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that Yang Hongwu didn't go in alone. Instead, he brought Bai Yiran with him. After Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran entered the sword tomb, streaks of sword qi swept towards them. Yang Hongwu waved his hand and the Destruction Heaven Palace protected Bai Yiran. Yang Hongwu didn't block the sword qi and allowed it to enter his body. Bai Yiran looked at Yang Hongwu. Although she was very worried, she knew that he must have his reasons for doing so. He must have enough confidence to do so. After the sword qi entered Yang Hongwu's body, Yang Hongwu began to operate his cultivation method. This was the cultivation method of the immortal sword body. Originally, Yang Hongwu could also use the sword qi to cultivate the immortal dragon body. However, using the sword qi to cultivate the immortal dragon body was far less effective than cultivating the immortal sword body. Yang Hongwu's body felt as if it was being cut by countless sharp swords. The sword qi washed over his body, and the intense pain was unbearable. Even someone as strong-willed as Yang Hongwu found it difficult to bear. It should be known that Yang Hongwu was a cultivator of the body secret technique. To refine his body, he naturally had to use all kinds of extreme forces to refine his body. In this way, he would have to endure great pain. In the past, when Yang Hongwu cultivated the Pangareel body and the immortal dragon body, he had to endure great pain to refine his body. However, compared to this time, when he cultivated the immortal sword body and used sword qi to refine his body, it was much less painful. Husband Yu. Bai Yiran naturally knew that the reason Yang Hongwu allowed the sword qi to enter his body and even took the initiative to let the sword qi enter his body was to use the sword qi to temper his body and cultivate a body secret technique. However, when she saw Yang Hongwu's distorted face, she was still very worried. However, before Bai Yiran could finish her words, Yang Hongwu gritted his teeth and said, "Still, don't worry. I can endure it. The immortal sword body is indeed extraordinary. If I can absorb and refine all the sword qi in the sword tomb, my body will reach a higher level." "Husband, if you can't endure it, let's go out," Bai Yiran said. "Yes, I know that. However, I can feel an astonishing sword qi in the depths of the sword tomb. This sword qi is extremely powerful. I'm afraid it's the source of the abnormality in the sword tomb." Why did Yang Hongwu want to enter the sword tomb? Firstly, he wanted to use the sword qi to temper his body. Secondly, it was because of this powerful sword qi. Yang Hongwu felt that this powerful sword qi was no weaker than the scroll of good fortune. Therefore, Yang Hongwu tried every possible means to enter the sword tomb. Even if Lien Rinshan and the others had not agreed, Yang Hongwu would have found an opportunity to sneak into the sword tomb. The sword qi in the sword tomb was comparable to the scroll of good fortune and the divine talisman. Therefore, Yang Hongwu was sure that it was a supreme treasure. Perhaps there was a powerful divine sword in the sword tomb, or perhaps there was a sword talisman. Chapter 1353. Seal. The two of them continued to move forward. Yang Hongwu continued to absorb and refine the sword energy, allowing his fleshly body to continuously improve. His cultivation base was also gradually increasing. Although he was still far from breaking through, it was only a matter of time before he broke through. This is the center of the sword catacomb. Yang Hongwu saw a huge rock in the center. The aura came from this huge rock. Yang Hongwu could clearly see that there was a crack on the huge rock. The terrifying aura came from that crack. What a terrifying sword will! Bai Yiran felt the terrifying sword chi and her face turned serious. Yang Hongwu was the same. It was unknown what was sealed under this huge rock. Perhaps what was sealed was a terrifying sword, or perhaps it was the legendary sword talisman, or even the sword will of a powerful cultivator. Yiran, wait for me here, Yang Hongwu said to Bai Yiran. Be careful. Bai Yiran nodded. Yang Hongwu nodded and walked towards the huge rock. Powerful sword chi burst out from the crack and drilled into Yang Hongwu's body. Yang Hongwu activated the immortal sword body and devoured the sword chi. Crack! It was as if something in Yang Hongwu's body had been broken. Yang Hongwu knew that the shackles of his body had been broken. At this moment, Yang Hongwu's body had become even stronger. The immortal dragon body was also activated. Yang Hongwu's immortal sword body cultivation method had begun to merge with the immortal dragon body secret method. Yang Hongwu was overjoyed. He didn't expect to encounter such a good thing. Yang Hongwu didn't rush over. Instead, he stayed where he was. Bai Yiran was originally very worried, but when she saw the changes in Yang Hongwu's aura, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. Of course, she could see that Yang Hongwu's strength had broken through. Whoosh! At this moment, a ray of light rushed out from the crack of the huge rock. This ray of light looked like a sharp sword. However, Yang Hongwu knew that it wasn't a sword, but a body of energy. Sword will. Yang Hongwu was shocked. This wasn't sword chi, but sword will. Although sword chi and sword will only differed by one word, it was a world of its own. Sword will was much stronger than sword chi. So what if its sword will? Refine it. Yang Hongwu stretched. Then Yang Hongwu's spiritual energy, as if a giant furnace. Then, his spiritual energy erupted. Then Yang Yang's will. Was Yang Yang's was. Yang Yang Nangong NN. Great NN. He had broken through a small realm. Yang Hongwu was overjoyed. This sword will was much stronger than sword chi. If he could refine all the sword will, he might be able to break through two small realms. Yang Hongwu went to the side of the huge rock. Looking at the huge rock, Yang Hongwu used his spiritual energy to investigate the huge rock. When Yang Hongwu's spiritual energy entered the huge rock, he felt a terrifying sword will. This sword will shattered his spiritual energy. Yang Hongwu's face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was shocked. Terrifying. He didn't know what was sealed in the huge rock. The sword will of this thing was so strong. His spiritual energy didn't have the slightest resistance in front of this terrifying sword will. It was shattered in an instant. This was too terrifying. Husband. Seeing Yang Hongwu spit out blood, Bai Yiran was worried. In a flash, she appeared beside Yang Hongwu. How are you? I'm fine. Don't worry. Yang Hongwu shook his head. Move aside. I'm going to break this huge rock to see what it is. Husband, it's better to be careful, Bai Yiran said. If something happens to you, what will happen to me? What will happen to the sisters in the future? Bai Yiran had a bad premonition. This premonition was very rare. However, every time it appeared, something bad would happen. Therefore, Bai Yiran was very worried. She didn't want Yang Hongwu to take the risk. However, she knew that Yang Hongwu wouldn't change his mind easily once he decided on something. I'll set up a formation. Yang Hongwu knew what Bai Yiran was thinking. After nodding, he took out a formation plate and formed seals. He set up a lightning formation. This lightning formation also had a dragon's gate formation. This dragon's gate formation was set up with the dragon's gate as the foundation. If something happened, Yang Hongwu could activate the formation and use the dragon's gate's power to resist. Yang Hongwu could even escape into the dragon's gate in an instant. Break for me. After Yang Hongwu finished setting up the formation, he condensed a powerful dermic power in his hands. This dermic power condensed into two huge fists and fiercely punched the huge rock. Bang! The powerful force bombarded the huge rock. However, it didn't shake the huge rock at all. Instead, it produced a shocking rebound force that sent Yang Hongwu flying. This huge rebound force caused Yang Hongwu to suffer heavy injuries. Yang Hongwu was shocked. This huge rock was beyond his expectations. He had attacked with all his strength, but this blow didn't even shake the huge rock at all. Seal. The moment Yang Hongwu was sent flying, he saw the power of the seal. This seal was so mysterious. It was so powerful. The entire huge rock was a seal. If the power of the seal hadn't rushed into his body and been sensed by Yang Hongwu, he wouldn't have been able to tell that this huge rock was a seal. What a powerful seal! What a mysterious seal! Yang Hongwu calmed his breathing and swallowed an elixir to stabilize the injuries in his body. Bai Yiran appeared beside Yang Hongwu. "Husband, I'm fine." As Yang Hongwu spoke, he pointed to the huge rock and said, "This is a seal. I don't know what's sealed inside. With my current strength, I have no way of opening the seal. No matter what it was, this seal and the thing inside the seal, if he could comprehend it, it would be a great benefit to Yang Hongwu. Take a look and see if you can comprehend the mystery of this seal." Yang Hongwu said to Bai Yiran. "I'll try." Bai Yiran nodded. This huge rock was a supreme seal. As such, this seal was so powerful that even Yang Hongwu's all-out attack couldn't shake the seal in the slightest. It was obvious that this seal wasn't simple. It was most likely a supreme Tao. Chapter 1354. Divine Sword Tao Steel. Yang Hongwu no longer tried to break the seal, but tried to comprehend it. If he could comprehend it, it would be of great help to him in the future. However, the sword intent that was constantly bursting out from the crack of the boulder was going against Yang Hongwu. It was impossible for him to comprehend it. Yang Hongwu had no choice but to crazily devour the sword intent to raise his cultivation and temper his physical body. As time passed, Yang Hongwu devoured a lot of sword intent. However, the time it took for him to refine the sword intent was getting slower and slower. Moreover, the sword intent that leaked out was getting more and more terrifying. These sword intents could actually hurt his soul. Every time he refined a sword intent, Yang Hongwu would suffer a lot of injuries. Those were injuries to his soul, and they weren't easy to recover from. Yang Hongwu's face was solemn. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He didn't expect the Sky Sword sect to be so simple. No, perhaps it was to say that this world wasn't that simple. Yang Hongwu sighed in his heart. He had already obtained a lot of treasures in this world. Now, he was more and more suspicious of his previous guess. Was this really the world in his Great Life Seal? Was it really the common life domain? How could there be so many treasures in the world of the Great Life Seal? Moreover, many of them were supreme treasures that could make ghosts and gods weep. For example, the Scroll of Fortune, the Dragon Gate? For example, the thing in the seal right now. There was also the aura of the Divine Talisman. Every one of them was a supreme treasure. It could be said that every one of them was an existence comparable to the Great Life Seal. Even if they weren't as good as the Great Life Seal, they weren't too far off. At least, they were on the same level. Boom! Just as Yang Hongwu was thinking, the boulder suddenly exploded and shattered. A terrifying aura burst out from the boulder. Yang Hongwu's face changed drastically. He pulled Bai Yiran and fled in an instant. It wasn't that Yang Hongwu didn't want to investigate what was sealed in the boulder, but the aura was too terrifying and powerful. Yang Hongwu had a feeling that if he were to stay behind, he would most likely be shattered into pieces by the terrifying thing and vanish into thin air. At this time, Yang Hongwu had already escaped from the sword tomb. At this moment, the entire Sky Sword Peak began to shake. "Hurry up and leave the Sky Sword Peak," Yang Hongwu shouted to Gui Longping and the others after leaving the Sky Sword sect. "What? Master, what's going on?" Lien Rinshan's face was solemn. He could feel the terrifying aura. This terrifying aura was going to destroy the Sky Sword Peak. Everyone from the Sky Sword Peak turned pale. However, they knew that this was not the time to discuss. If they stayed, they might lose their lives. "Let's leave the Sky Sword Peak first," said Yang Hongwu. "The Sky Sword Peak is about to collapse." All the disciples of the Sky Sword Peak sensed this terrible disaster and frantically ran out of the Sky Sword Peak. After most of the people had escaped, the Heavenly Sword Peak collapsed. Gui Longping and the others were stunned when they saw the huge Sky Sword Peak collapsing. The Sky Sword Sect. The Sky Sword Sect was destroyed in my hands. How can I face the ancestors of the Sky Sword Sect? Gui Longping's body trembled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Yang Hongwu. At this moment, Bai Yunjian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Yang Hongwu. Killing intent shrouded Yang Hongwu. "Speak. What's going on? Did you destroy the Sky Sword Peak?" Lien Rinshan and the others also looked at Yang Hongwu, each of them bursting with killing intent. Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly. He couldn't blame them. The Sky Sword Peak collapsed the moment he arrived. Anyone would be suspicious. "Master." Lien Rinshan sighed when he saw Yang Hongwu's killing intent dissipating. Although he was indebted to Yang Hongwu and was now his master, if the Sky Sword Peak collapsed because of Yang Hongwu, he would repay kindness with enmity and kill Yang Hongwu. Sigh. Yang Hongwu sighed and looked at the crowd. The crisis hasn't been resolved yet. As for the collapse of the Sky Sword Peak, it has nothing to do with me. There's a terrible thing sealed in the Sword Tomb. It's the source of the Sword Cheese explosion and the cause of the Sky Sword Peak's collapse. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge stone tablet appeared where the Sky Sword Peak collapsed. This huge stone tablet was a huge sword. The Sword Dao Tablet. Bai Yunjian exclaimed when he saw the huge stone tablet after the Sky Sword Peak collapsed. "It's really the Sword Dao Tablet? How is that possible?" Gui Longping was also shocked. The Sword Dao Divine Steel was only a legendary item. It was rumored that before the common people's continent was split, a crack appeared in the heavens and earth. 3 treasures fell from the divine domain. One of the 3 treasures was the Sword Dao Divine Steel. The Sword Dao Tablet was the supreme treasure of the Sword Dao. It contained supreme laws and also supreme great Dao. Anyone who could comprehend the Sword Dao Tablet could become a supreme sword god. What a terrifying sword intent! I'm going to break through. Under the majestic sword intent, some cultivators who had reached the limit of their cultivation and were only a step away from breaking through broke through the shackles and bottleneck. They entered a higher realm. Gui Longping and another peak Great Emperor expert broke through the shackles and entered the invincible Great Emperor realm under the terrifying sword intent of the Sword Dao Tablet. In this way, the Sky Sword Sect had 3 more invincible Great Emperors. At this moment, no one blamed Yang Hongwu anymore. And the appearance of this Sword Dao Divine Steel exploded with a shocking sword intent. When this sword intent exploded, all the experts in the Tsongshan continent could feel it. The experts in the Central Continent and the other 3 continents could feel the aura of the Sword Dao Tablet. Great, I didn't expect the Sword Dao Tablet to be in my Sky Sword Sect. Gui Longping murmured happily. Don't be happy too early. Seeing that the disciples of the Sky Sword Sect were overjoyed, Yang Hongwu said coldly, "The divine Sword Dao Steel is a divine object. Although I don't know who sealed the divine Sword Dao Steel here, it's not a good thing for all of you now that the seal has been lifted and the divine Sword Dao Steel is released." "Master, you mean?" Lien Rinshan thought of something and his face changed slightly. The other old antiques' faces also changed. Although they were happy and excited, they weren't fools. On the contrary, those who could cultivate to their level were all cunning old foxes. Although the Sword Dao Tablet was precious and powerful, it wasn't something they could protect. Moreover, how terrifying would the person who sealed the Sword Dao Tablet be? Chapter 1355. Enraged, the appearance of the sword Dao steel wasn't a good thing for the Sky Sword sect. Instead, it was a huge disaster. But to give up the steel? To relocate the Sky Sword sect? Would they be willing to do so? The answer was obvious. No, absolutely not. This was the foundation of the Sky Sword sect. They wouldn't give it up. Moreover, the sword Dao steel was a supreme treasure. How could they give it up? No cultivator was willing to give up such a powerful treasure. Even Rinshan wasn't willing to do so. You're here for the sword Dao steel? An elder looked at Yang Hongwu and asked. When the others heard this, they remembered that Yang Hongwu had taken a huge risk to enter the sword tomb. It turned out that he actually knew about the existence of the sword Dao Divine Steel. In order to obtain the sword Dao Divine Steel, he took such a huge risk to enter it. If not for this, who would be willing to risk their lives to enter a place where there was a high chance of survival? Therefore, the people of the Sky Sword sect guessed that Yang Hongwu had entered the sword tomb to obtain the sword Dao steel. However, due to some special reasons, or perhaps because the sword Dao steel was too powerful, he couldn't obtain it. This led to an accident that caused the sword Dao steel to appear. Even Bai Yunjian was a little suspicious. Gui Longping even guessed that Yang Hongwu had refused to come to the Sky Sword sect because he was playing hard to get. Looking at these people, Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly. These guys really thought that he had come to the Sky Sword sect for the sword Dao steel. However, he didn't deny that he had entered the sword tomb because he sensed the existence of the sword Dao steel. However, he didn't know that it was the sword Dao steel. Capture him, an old man ordered. That's right. We can't let him spread the news of the sword Dao steel. The sword Dao steel belongs to our Sky Sword sect. Another elder also stared at Yang Hongwu and Bai Yiran. The sword in his hand was already unsheathed. What? Do you want to attack me? Yang Hongwu's eyes shot out a cold light. How shameless, Bai Yiran said coldly. You shameless people repay kindness with ingratitude. You're worse than pigs and dogs. Little girl, you're courting death. An elder flew into a rage out of humiliation, and he swung his sword at Bai Yiran. When Yang Hongwu saw this, he snorted coldly and released a terrifying killing intent. He stretched out his right hand and flicked his finger. Jingshan finger. This finger seemed to have erupted from the ancient god domain, and it contained a terrifying force that could annihilate everything and kill all the gods. Boom! With a loud bang, the old man was sent flying by Yang Hongwu's finger. He crashed into a distant mountain peak, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Everyone was shocked. Although this old man wasn't the strongest, he was definitely one of the strongest in the Sky Sword sect. He was a late-stage Emperor Realm expert. However, in front of Yang Hongwu, he couldn't even block a single attack. Powerful, too powerful. This kid was indeed not just a great saint. His great saint realm cultivation was just a disguise. He was pretending to be weak. After sending the old man flying, Yang Hongwu didn't let him go. With a flash, he waved his right hand and a saber chi burst out, instantly cutting off the old man's head. This series of actions happened in just a breath's time. Lien Rinshan and the others couldn't stop it in time. Master! Lien Rinshan smiled bitterly. You're too heavy-handed. He's just a moment of impulse. Lien Rinshan looked at Yang Hongwu in horror. His master was getting more and more mysterious. Even though he had broken through to the unrivaled Emperor realm, he didn't have the slightest confidence that he could deal with Yang Hongwu. It was even more so for Bai Yunjian. Yang Hongwu's strength was too terrifying. He had hidden most of his cultivation before this. He even suspected that Yang Hongwu was a true divinity powerhouse that came down from the realm of the gods, and he had only sealed his own cultivation. Even if he had sealed his cultivation, his combat strength was still very terrifying. Moreover, he could unseal his cultivation at any time. However, due to the restrictions of the law, he could not truly unseal his cultivation. Once he did, it would cause a certain impact to him. Kill him, kill him! Meanwhile, the disciples and friends of the old man who had been slain were infuriated upon seeing this, especially the other old man, an ancestor who had just achieved the undefeatable martial monarch realm. His nephew had been killed because of his only relative. How could he not be infuriated when his only relative was killed right in front of him? Stop! Seeing him attack, Lien Rinshan's eyes shot out a cold light and blocked his attack. What are you doing? Lien Rinshan, get out of my way. This little bastard killed my only relative. I want him dead. His eyes were red as he roared in anger. Shut up, he asked for it. Lien Rinshan shouted. Lien Rinshan, do you want to fight with me? You're protecting an outsider? You're protecting Sure Po's murderer? I'm going to kill him. Lien Rinshan, if I hadn't broken through, I would still be afraid of you. But now that I've broken through, I'm also an unrivaled great emperor like you. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Humph. Yang Hongwu snorted coldly. Wanting to kill him was akin to courting death. Yang Hongwu didn't want any trouble, so he made his move. Cutting the weeds must be uprooted. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble. Moreover, at this time, he needed to kill to establish his prestige. Otherwise, there would be more people who wanted to deal with him. Although he wasn't afraid, he didn't want any trouble. Therefore, this time, Yang Hongwu took action again. With a wave of his hand, a ray of light broke through the sky. Starlight burst out. It was a formation. It was another formation. A sword formation appeared. The power of the divine sword steel was activated by Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu used the power of the divine sword formation to activate the power of the divine sword steel. Yang Hongwu used his finger as a sword and a sword intent burst out. The invisible sword intent instantly pierced through the elder's forehead. Before he could react, the sword intent had pierced through his body and soul. His soul scattered. He died in a single strike. He died before he could finish his sentence. He died with his eyes wide open. When Lien Rinshan and the others saw this scene, they were terrified. Terrifying, too terrifying. Yang Hongwu's strength was much stronger than they had imagined. How terrifying was his strength! No one could stop him. Even if the entire Sky Sword sect attacked together, they wouldn't be his match. If they really angered Yang Hongwu, the entire Sky Sword sect would be finished. Chapter 1356. Yuji appeared. Do you guys still want to attack me? Yang Hongwu's cold eyes swept across the crowd. If you're not afraid of death, you can try. Grandmaster, it's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Gui Longping hurriedly said. He had already broken through to the invincible Great Emperor realm, but he didn't see clearly how Yang Hongwu attacked just now. It was just a sword light and the person was dead. That was an invincible Great Emperor. If they really angered Yang Hongwu, everyone here wouldn't be enough for him to kill. Humph. Yang Hongwu snorted coldly and said, I have said that this series of changes is not because of me. The divine sword steel was not created by me. Originally, I did not want to come to the Sky Sword sect, but you guys forced me to come. For the sake of Bai Yunjian, I will not bicker with you guys. In addition, let me give you a warning. This divine sword steel is not something that you guys can possess. You cannot refine it and you can't keep it either. All the experts in the continent have sensed it, and the old antiques of each continent are rushing here. If you don't want your sect to be destroyed, you better leave here quickly. Grandmaster, you're not joking, right? Do all the experts in the continent know about the divine sword steel? Lien Rinshan said in disbelief. It's up to you to believe it or not. Yang Hongwu said coldly. Gui Longping and Lien Rinshan looked at each other. They knew that as an invincible great emperor, as an existence at the pinnacle of the continent, of course they could sense the aura of the divine sword steel. The moment the divine sword steel appeared, the terrifying sword intent could definitely be felt by the entire continent. It would be strange if they didn't sense such a heaven-defying sword intent. Therefore, Yang Hongwu killed 2 of them. They were angry, but they also knew that it wasn't the right time to fall out with Yang Hongwu. Moreover, if Yang Hongwu was on their side, that would be the best choice. Yang Hongwu was too strong. If he was here, the divine sword steel would still belong to the heavenly sword sect. Even if it was in Yang Hongwu's hands, as long as he was a member of the heavenly sword sect, wouldn't it be good for the heavenly sword sect? Grandmaster, this is the ancestral land of my heavenly sword sect. We can't leave. If we leave, it would mean that we've given up on the heavenly sword sect and betrayed our ancestors. We can't do that, said Gui Longping. If you don't want to leave, it's up to you. Yang Hongwu said coldly, as long as you don't bother me. Yang Hongwu looked at the divine sword steel. He wasn't willing to give up just like that. After all, the divine sword steel was a supreme treasure. Although he couldn't refine it now, he wouldn't give up if he had the chance. If he could refine the divine sword steel, or merge it with the Dragon Gate and the heavenly palace of destruction, it would be even better. However, it was too difficult to refine the divine sword steel. Yang Hongwu wasn't confident enough to refine the divine sword steel. Even if he was strong enough to kill an invincible great emperor, he still couldn't refine the divine sword steel. Yang Hongwu faintly felt that the power of the divine sword steel hadn't been released yet. The power he felt now was only 1,000th, or even 1/10,000th, or even less. Martial Ancestor, you have a way to refine the divine sword steel, and you have the strength to stop those greedy guys, right? Gui Longping asked. Honorable Ancestor Yang, you are now considered a member of our Sky Sword sect, a revered elder of our Sky Sword sect. We have no way to take the divine sword steel, but we don't want our Sky Sword sect to be destroyed. So, I was wondering if you could protect our Sky Sword sect? Bai Yunjian asked after some thought. Bai Yunjian knew that Yang Hongwu's words weren't groundless. He was afraid that the old antiques and the powerful forces in the mainland would be rushing here by now. Although the Sky Sword Peak had collapsed, the Sky Sword sect was still there. The Sky Sword Peak was only the main peak of the Sky Sword sect. The entire territory of the Sky Sword sect included the entire Sky Sword Peak within a radius of 3,000 miles. There were properties of the Sky Sword sect around the Sky Sword Peak. However, because of the divine sword steel, the Sky Sword sect had fallen into a huge crisis. Originally, the collapse of the Sky Sword Peak had caused the Sky Sword sect to suffer heavy losses. If the other properties of the Sky Sword sect below the Sky Sword Peak were destroyed by the other forces, then the Sky Sword sect would really be finished. Facing the old antiques and powerful forces of the entire common people's continent, Lien Renshan and the others didn't have enough confidence to resist. If it was just the Western continent, they wouldn't be worried. Although it was equally dangerous, they could still take advantage of the situation. After all, their Sky Sword sect had 2 invincible great emperors. However, if they were to include the central continent and the experts from the other 3 continents, they definitely wouldn't be able to resist. There wasn't a single sect in the common people's continent that could resist the combined forces of all the other forces. Even the strongest common people's temple couldn't. They had no way to resist, so they needed Yang Hongwu's help. As long as Yang Hongwu was willing to help, they still had hope. After all, Yang Hongwu was so powerful that an invincible great emperor could be easily killed in front of him. His strength was unfathomable. No one knew how strong he was. Therefore, if the Sky Sword sect wanted to survive and deal with those greedy people, they needed Yang Hongwu's help. As long as he was willing to stand on the side of the Sky Sword sect, the Sky Sword sect wouldn't have to worry. Husband, no one can take the divine sword steel. Moreover, now that all the forces of the common people's continent are rushing over, this place will soon become a place of trouble, a battlefield of Azura. We don't need to take the risk, Byron said. The common people's continent wasn't that simple. Even something like the divine sword steel had appeared. Perhaps there were some terrifying experts. Otherwise, why would the divine sword steel appear here? Even if there were restrictions, there were still some special existences. Some ancient guys used all kinds of secret techniques to deceive the heavenly Tao and stayed on this continent. If those old antiques appeared, Yang Hongwu's strength hadn't recovered to its peak. If he encountered them, it would be extremely dangerous. I feel a familiar aura. It's Yuji's. Yang Hongwu suddenly looked towards the east. His eyes flashed with surprise. He didn't expect such a surprise. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.